Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to Talos of EV live on YouTube. I'm sorry it's been so long since the last one, and I apologize in advance if the internet has been a bit spotty. I'm using this cheapo T-Mobile internet, which a lot of the time has been really good, but it's also been acting up during live streams lately. So I think I got it all fixed. It also could have been a software bug on my computer, but I think we're good now. But it might. I haven't completely tested it for this long of a stream before, but sit tight and get comfortable because today's live stream is going to be a long one. We have Tesla dropping the shareholder deck in less than 15 minutes, so not much longer to wait until we officially find out a lot more of the information. In my opinion, the shareholder deck is usually the most interesting part. That's when they give you the hard data on earnings, how much they spent, how much they made, the current state of production, installed capacity, and future development. I'm really hoping that because Elon said, sorry, I'm gonna lock myself in the car here. I'm really hoping that they finally have updated the current installed annual capacity for the Tesla Semi, because we've actually seen some satellite imagery of the Giga Nevada facility, and they found like over 20 Tesla semis parked there. And of course, first deliveries are set to begin on December 1st. And technically, I think the way Elon phrased it, he said that the Tesla Semi is in production as we speak. At least that's how I interpreted it. So yeah, I'm excited. Hi, Samuel. Hi, Stuart. Rajat, Threehead. Hey, everybody. Greetings from Berlin. Wow, people watching all the way from Berlin. That's cool. And Mersey, thank you so much for being a supercharger of the channel for the last 14 months. That's awesome. Thank you. I should probably answer while we're waiting here. I'll show you guys the shareholder deck right as it shows up. I have the page loaded up. And then we'll just have our kind of typical Wednesday. You know, my goal is to do it every Wednesday, but it's been difficult to make time for it. But we'll have our typical just EV Q&A. We don't have to talk about Tesla, but whatever you guys want to ask about, we can talk about until the earnings call officially begins. Then I'll get a lot more quiet and play the earnings call for you guys. That way you can hear what's going on the call and kind of my brief but subtle commentary. Maybe not so subtle. But the first message we got here was from Hasael, sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, but he says, can you see the Yoke ever coming to the Model 3 and Y or to be exclusive to the S and X? I personally don't like it, so I hope not. But for continuity, I can see them adding it to all models. At this point, my guess is no. I think that Tesla knows the Yoke is controversial, and I think they're starting to get to the point where they may not have an endless supply of demand. They're probably not there yet. There's still quite a wait time when you order vehicles, but I just read a comment recently from someone on one of my videos that had mentioned that, sorry, that angle's a little bit weird. The passenger seat, it's adjusted for my wife. I gotta readjust it for myself here. I just want to look normal. But essentially, I think in the long run, the Yoke is fairly controversial to a lot of people. So if you're trying to mass produce a vehicle and make it, you know, the best-selling vehicle in the world, and it's extremely popular and just universally loved by many, it means that you can't make too many drastic design choices. And I consider the Yoke somewhat drastic of a design choice. So I opened the window. I predict that the Model 3 and Y will likely stick with the steering wheel. And, you know, Tesla, when they had the Plaid Model S event, said that the Yoke, one of its primary advantages was to make it easier to see the driver display. But Model 3 and Y don't have driver displays. So I guess for, yeah, like you said, for uniformity between models, I suppose it would make sense to have a Yoke. But I think it makes more sense to kind of keep the simplistic, you know, tried and true. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. Model S and X are more like, you really want a Tesla, right? Because the Model S and X are not necessarily, I would consider them luxury vehicles, but I've had other people tell me, like, no, that is not luxury. That's not the same as a Mercedes S-Class. It's like, okay, we can all have different definitions of luxury in our heads, but ultimately, the Model S and X are for people who really, really love Teslas, but want like the best available technology that Tesla can offer, the ventilated seats and the larger display and, you know, the capacitive buttons. So my guess is that the Yoke probably costs more to make, Because it has more of a button approach opposed to just the standard gear stocks and just the volume that they're building Model 3s and Ys at, they're just kind of accustomed to regular steering wheels. So I could be wrong. Tesla likes to make controversial design choices all the time. So as much as I would like it, for the record, I know you guys don't like the Yoke, or most people don't like the Yoke, but I would love to try one. And I've been tempted to get an aftermarket Yoke for my car, but my wife is not a fan of Yokes. So because she drives the car and I drive the car, I don't want to make that decision for her. So there's nothing really wrong with the current. This is my favorite steering wheel design that I've ever seen. Every modern day steering wheel always has to have so many buttons on it. It drives me nuts. I love Tesla's simplistic, clean steering wheel design. I honestly like the Aptera Yoke a bit more, but um, Yoke still doesn't make sense for 3 and Y. The lack of binetical dash makes the Yoke pointless. I don't think it's pointless. It's kind of a design preference, in my opinion. Like, not having that excess space taking up, even though you're not using it. It's just, I've seen people install aftermarket Yokes in their Model 3 or Y, and they really like them, and they prefer them. Let's see. Model 2 is not a Tesla. What are you guys talking about? What about the any more rumors for any new Tesla models, asks Roman. No, not really. I mean, pretty much the only one that Tesla has alluded to is they they say they're working on a robotaxi. So that vehicle they claim is going to be ready for mass production in 2024. I don't believe them on that, but they've said that that's going to be like somewhat bizarre looking or somewhat different looking, and I bet that that's probably the only like unannounced model that they've worked up. I mean, Elon has said on many occasions that they will do a van. It's just not really the issue with Tesla right now is not the number of models they have. The limiting factor preventing EV adoption is availability at this point and how quickly Tesla can ramp up vehicles. That's what matters. So they're focusing on just building more of what they have. They could make a van, but it would just complicate manufacturing and it wouldn't really push EV adoption that much further. So I understand why they're not prioritizing it. But yeah, if you're curious, like, what else is Tesla going to make in the future? They've like openly said, like, yeah, eventually we'll do a van. And but more recently, they've said that they're focusing on like getting full self-driving working to the point that it's safer than a human, and then they want to start mass production of robotaxis, because in their mind, their end goal, which I'm not super happy about personally, I would kind of them rather work on making cheaper cars, but their goal is just cheapest cost per mile of transport. So by their mindset, what's going to help the transition to more sustainable energy is if we can make electric vehicles that are used by the public all day instead of just sitting in our garages, sitting in parking lots when you're at work. They want to make a robotaxi that only costs, probably $20,000 to build, and then it becomes a Uber or a Lyft that drives people around all the day. And that way, one electric vehicle can replace like 5 gas cars instead of what we have now, which is one electric vehicle replaces one gas car for the most part. I just don't necessarily trust the AI. I don't think the machine learning is that good, and I don't think Elon in particular is very good at estimating FSD timelines. So if you're hoping for oh, he says I pronounced it correctly. That's awesome. I didn't realize Hasael, is that right? Okay. Um yeah, I would prefer, because I'm not a believer of like everyone will just stop wanting to own cars as soon as robotaxis get cheap. Like, I think there's a lot of reasons people buy cars, and it's not just transportation. Some people think I'm crazy for saying that, but it's like, I don't think pickup trucks and SUVs would be the best sellers if all the reason people had cars for was for transportation. Everyone would buy the cheapest car. Everyone would be driving a Toyota Camry or a Honda Civic or whatever, and they would all drive the most aerodynamic, most fuel-efficient vehicle. But you notice that's not what's happening. What's the most popular vehicle in the United States that's sold for the last, like, 40 years? It's the F-150. Not very aerodynamic, not very efficient. It's not the most cost-effective way, and it's not even that cheap, really. It's not the most cost-effective way to get around, but it is practical. It is utility-focused. And it's not that people are hauling things or towing things every single trip, but they like having that flexibility because sometimes you take longer trips. Sometimes you need to move stuff. Sometimes you need to pack things. And especially with like big families, that want to, put multiple car seats in the vehicle, having to install and uninstall car seats every time you get a robotaxi, or having to have dedicated robotaxis just for people with car seats, and you want to make sure it's a car seat you're comfortable with. Also, a lot of moms like to have the mirror on the back of the seat so that they can see how their kid is doing in the back, and you'd have to install that every single time. I don't know. Yeah, kind of like what Trevor just said. Robotaxis are great for cities, but as someone who's lived in rural America my whole life, these people need cars. When it takes an hour to drive to the closest Walmart, who would wait for a robotaxi? Yeah, absolutely. And it's not as simple as just like city versus rural. There's a wide spectrum. There's a wide spectrum of people that are like, okay, we're in a pretty big city, but because the city is so stretched out, public transport is just not very viable or available. And even if it was viable, just the practicality of, if you're getting a bunch of groceries, or you have several kids and you want to take them to school, or you want to take them to see grandma or something, having to take all your kids on public transport, and you're in an enclosed, bus, and it doesn't have the seats the way you like, and you have to wait at the bus stop, or you have to abide by the public transportation system. People like the flexibility and the freedom that vehicles offer. So I don't subscribe to the concept that a robotaxi will kill the need for car ownership. But I do believe that, yeah, like in major cities, robotaxis are going to be a lot more practical, because owning a car is increasingly less practical when you're living in apartment buildings and you have to pay for parking. And when traffic is so bad in a major city, I don't think car ownership is that high anyway. So it's like, yeah, robotaxis will probably replace car ownership a bit more in cities, but already a lot of people are already taking taxis or public transport or walking or what have you. But I do agree that if Tesla, I still say if, sorry, I'm not like fully convinced that they can figure it out. If Tesla solves full self-driving, and by solve, I just mean makes it safer than a human and starts rolling it out in mass in several jurisdictions, it makes most sense from the business perspective to only build robotaxis at that point. I mean, that is a far more profitable business model than selling a car to a customer, because you could theoretically build a $20,000 robotaxi and make like $30,000 a year off of that car. Once you've done that, like, why the heck would you bother selling cars to people, right? So it would suck, because a lot of people who want to buy and own Teslas would be like, hey, where's the cheaper one? And Tesla's just going to be like, take a robotaxi. That's the cheap Tesla. You don't buy the cheap Tesla. You ride in the cheap Tesla. But knowing that it's used by dozens of people a day means that it's probably going to get messy or stinky, or just not be as nice as owning your own car. Hey, Stefano, welcome to the stream. Thanks for joining in. Jacob says, never get an aftermarket yoke. Those look tacky and they're always too small. It's all personal preference, but I think they look great. Chris from Dirty Tesla got one, and I love it. Every time I see his videos, I'm like, ooh, that's cool. I dig it. I'm not saying all of you need to get a yoke. I'm just saying I like the look. It still doesn't make sense. Stocks deserve to be gone at this point. The semi-stock list looks great. See, that's what's funny, is I know a lot of people with the Model S and X, and they like the yoke, but they don't like the buttons. They prefer the gear stock. So it's like everybody has a a section they go into. Some people like gear stock, some people don't. I'm in favor of like trying to figure out how clean and minimal the design can be. So if I was just the one in the car by myself and no one else ever drove it, I would like buttons and a yoke, but because I'm not the only one driving this car, I'm comfortable with keeping the stocks, keeping the steering wheel, because that's what my wife is comfortable with. She's not interested in a yoke. So maybe one day if we have an Aptera, that'll be my preferred interior steering mechanism, I guess. My dream Tesla interior is the center screen being, instead of a generic tablet, being the rumored 14-inch M3 iPad Ultra. I don't know where you saw that rumor. CarPlay integrated into the whole OS. That would make Tesla perfect. I like that idea, though. I like having a Apple-designed user interface. Tesla's probably the best in the biz when it comes to car UI, but it's still a bit behind what I think we're used to with, our typical tablet and phone software and responsiveness. But yeah, Quados, I saw the 24 semi spotted in Nevada. It's 1 o'clock. So we're actually very, very close. I'm going to bring up you guys on the Tesla screen here, actually. I'm going to make sure I'm muted so you guys don't hear me twice. But I'm going to have the chat. Oh, this is so cool. I have the chat open on Tesla Theater, but that way I can pull up the shareholder deck here. We're going to go to earnings call. This is what I'm going to show later when we're listening to the call, but, oh wait, we can keep that. Sorry. Image. There it is. So I'll start refreshing this. It should be dropping any minute now, because it's 1 o'clock. We are nowhere near robotaxi or FSD being complete, let alone the regulations to allow robotaxi. Well, to be fair, there are robotaxi fleets already in operation. Waymo is a thing. Cruise is a thing. There's autonomous vehicles driving around in certain cities with no one behind the wheel, and they are charging for those rides. So I wouldn't say that we're necessarily nowhere near having regulations to allow robotaxis. Sure, there's a lot of places that probably would ban it. There's even a lot of places that ban Uber and Lyft, which is not even autonomous. They just have unions that protect taxi drivers, and of course the robotaxi is going to be a threat to taxi drivers as well. But I do agree that I think it is often discussed that, oh, it's so close, or FSD beta is so good, it's almost there, it's almost there. It's like, it can be better than it's ever been, and it can be a long way from what it used to be. That doesn't necessarily mean it's close. And I keep up to date as much as I can with all the FSD beta performance. I watch as many FSD beta videos that get posted. And yes, it's very impressive. It's still very good, but there's still a human there for a reason. And there's still interventions. And the amount of human interventions needs to drop to an insanely low number for YouTubers before we'd even consider rolling it out to the masses, because it has to be such a rare occurrence that it's like a big deal when you have to make an intervention or you have to do something, because a lot of the time FSD beta is really smart and really clever, and other times it's like, what the heck are you thinking? What is going on? So yeah, that's a difficult thing to balance, essentially. But yeah, sometimes it's a couple minutes late. It should pop up here any second. We'll just give it a moment. Will my robotaxi propulsively launch me and my roadster over a speed bump? Ah, see, Mike's asking the real questions. It's inevitable self-driving tech will be solved. It's only a debate when. I'm not convinced of that, because it's never been done. We've never figured out, at least the way Tesla's done it, where they're trying to make a one-size-fits-all software stack where the vehicle can drive itself anywhere a human can, and without any pre-mapping. That's a lot of edge cases. I think driving is a lot more complicated than Elon originally thought it was going to be. And if you think I'm wrong, then look at all the times Elon thought we were close to solving it, and then we were nowhere near close. So it's like, how do we know? Like, we thought back in 2017 or 2018, Tesla thought they were really, really close to solving it. Most of the people, if you went to like Autonomy Day and told them, hey, this won't be ready by 2022, you'd be like, oh, they're crazy. Think of how good it is now and how much better it's going to be. They hit a local maximum with that current neural net, and now they're trying again. But how do you know for sure we're not going to hit another neural net? You don't. It's never been achieved. So if something's never been achieved, you don't necessarily know when or if it's possible. Oh, shareholder deck is up. Here we go. What do you think of electric scooters? I've never messed around with one, but they seem fun. There's a lot of places I've gone to that have them. $2.2 billion increase in our cash and marketable securities. Sweet! Okay, the third quarter was another strong record revenue, operating profit, and free cash flow in the last 3 months. That's awesome. I'm just looking at the preview to make sure you guys can see what I can see. It might be a little bit cut off, so I'll adjust it here. Oh, no, that doesn't adjust it. Whoops. You probably don't need to see the things on the side. Fremont and... Okay. We remain focused on increasing vehicle production as quickly as possible by increasingly our weekly build rate in Fremont and Shanghai. That's awesome. Let me scroll down to the chat. I'm sorry, I'm too excited. I want to jump to the status bar. Ooh! Whoa! Cybertruck updated to tooling. And then Tesla Semi is listed as early production. Yes! Oh, they finally did it. Wow. Sorry, that was a weird sound. Woo! That's amazing. That's the sound I was going for. Tesla Semi officially in production in Nevada It is listed, and the Cybertruck is stated to be as the tooling stage. They finally updated 2 at the same time. Roadster still to be determined, as is Robotaxi and others. Let's see. Oh, they're listing Nevada as well. We continue to implement solutions to further increase the production rate in Fremont. The production rate of Model Ys made in Texas continue to increase in each month of the quarter. The total number of 4680 cells produced, cells sent to formation, increased 3x sequentially in Q3. The initial phase of Tesla semi deliveries is scheduled to begin in December 2022. Wow, that's awesome. I'm sorry. I'm so much more interested in the vehicle capacity page than everything else. Um, so that's interesting. The number of 4680 cells produced increased 3x, and they're listing this. Where are those cells produced, though? I'm assuming they mean Cato Road. And the initial phase of Tesla semi deliveries is early production. So yeah, not enough production to write the capacity yet, which is probably fair. It's not going to be at super high volume. But yeah, Mike in the Woods was asking for this all year. He's been waiting for this to change to under construction. Now it says tooling. I'm not sure. That I assume means construction. Thanks to strong production rate improvement towards the end of Q3, our team in Germany produced more than 2,000 Model Y vehicles in a single week using 2170 cells. Production rate progress at the factory is aligned with our expectations. That's awesome. Wonderful. After a production slowdown in Q2, the Q3 production rate in Shanghai surpassed previous quarterly records. Our factory in Shanghai remains our main export hub, supplying vehicles to most markets outside North America. Shanghai is always crushing it. Trip projection tool. Yeah, I've been waiting for this to come out. I'm interested in seeing the advanced energy stage. Oh man, there's so much to read. Let's see. Approximately 160,000 Tesla drivers in North America had access, but not me, unfortunately. Gigafactory Texas, we have begun production of Model Ys since early this year that use front and rear body castings in conjunction with a structural battery pack. Casting of this size have never been mass-produced before in any industry by anyone except Tesla and our Fremont and Shanghai factories. Part of the challenge of making such large castings is that all the aluminum needs to be injected in a die. We plan to introduce front castings and structural battery packs at Berlin. Oh, so Berlin's not using front castings. That's interesting. No strikingly photos besides an SNX underbody. Oh, they got an SNX underbody? Oh, yeah, services. Supercharger. Yeah, let's see some pictures. Model SNX General Assembly. Ooh, looks clean. Yeah, they got the lighting there. Giga Berlin's. Wow, look how many. Look how far back the vehicle goes. That's cool. New photos of Giga Shanghai's exterior. The body welding line at Texas. Wow, the solar's coming along nicely. But that's good. Seems like a pretty strong third quarter for net income. Yeah, as soon as you ordered a Model 3, that's when they changed the Cybertruck. Wow. Adjusted a bit. Man. Operating margin. Tesla auto industry. Tesla's way up here. Man, their margin's high. Basically the highest margin they've ever had. Resulting number of vehicles in transit. I see. End of quarter number of vehicles in transit noticeably higher due to the ideal state than in ideal historical state. Okay. That's cool. I'm so glad to see Tesla Semi finally enter production. And as always, they always say this with every outlook. We are making progress on the industrialization of Cybertruck, which is currently planned for Texas production subsequent to Model Y ramp. The initial phase of Tesla Semi deliveries is scheduled to begin in December of this year. That's so good. Ugh, what a refresher. It's fun. I don't know. It's one thing to see the Tesla Semi updates on like an Elon tweet. It's another thing to see it part of like a public document. That's really exciting. The stock is not reacting good again. Yeah, I never understood this. The stock always reacts weird. I don't know what people were expecting. Each of our vehicle factories produced a record number of vehicles. Oh yeah, sell the stock. Record number of vehicle production. Cybertruck tooling has begun. Tesla semi production has already started. Sell the stock. The company's doomed, right? Let's see. They deployed. I'm just seeing what the people are reporting. Yeah, $3.3 billion of GAAP net income, 27.9% automotive gross margin. That's insane. Wow. No, that's incredibly strong numbers, in my opinion. Um, See, I'm glad they separate supercharging stations versus connectors. Those are two big differences, because Electrify America will deploy a bunch of charge stations, but each station only will have like 5 or 6 stalls, and half of them are offline. They're up to 38,000, over 38,000 connectors. That's insane. At over 4,000 supercharger locations. Buy the hype, sell the news. I don't know what news is disappointing to people. Total revenue grew 56% year over year in Q3. Year over year revenue was impacted by the following items: growth in vehicle deliveries, increased average selling price. That's definitely true. In the last year, there's been a lot more expensive models. Growth in other parts of the business. Wow, that's very specific. What do you think is the best model for sleeping in? Probably the Cybertruck when that's out. Tesla Semi might have a sleeper cab. Who knows? Maybe that would be good for sleeping in. Probably the biggest one you can with the seats folded down. So I would say like a 5-seater Model X is probably the best Tesla to sleep in. But you could sleep in the 3. The seats fold down and you got a lot of room back there. I've laid down back there before. I haven't slept in the car. Well, no, that's not true. On my San Diego trip, I slept, but I just sat in the front seat. When the stock dips, treat it like the stock has gone on sale and up your stay. Yeah, really. That's how a lot of people. If it goes down, buy more. If it goes up, keep holding. Just never sell it until you're 150. What do you think is the? I already answered that. S or Y. I think you could sleep in all of them. Honestly, if you just get the layout right. I've thought about buying a share. I just don't know how to actually do it. It's pretty simple if you use an app like Webull, or Vanguard has made it a lot more simple. When I first signed up for Vanguard, it was pretty complicated, but there's tutorials out there. It's just an app, and you make an account and you connect your bank account to it so it knows what to draw the money from, and there's a buy section and you type in Tesla and you hit confirm order. It's not overly complicated. We remain focused on increasing vehicle production as quickly as possible. That's awesome. Raw material cost inflation impacted our profitability along with the ramp inefficiencies from Giga Berlin, Texas, and 4680 cell production. Also, the US dollar continued to strengthen compared to all other major currencies. Interesting. Raw material inflation impacted profitability, but they still have very high margin. Do you think we'll get the Roadster this decade? Probably this decade, yeah. But, sorry, you were asking earlier about that. What did you ask? What do I think the status of the Roadster currently is? Do you think we'll get it this decade, given that they seem to be constantly shifting focus to something else? To be fair, the Roadster has, like, very little to do with the mission statement. I mean, neither does the bot, but the Roadster would take batteries and cells away from vehicles that are in production, that they're trying to cut through the backlog on. But the good news, I guess, is that, the wait times are going down. Tesla is, ramping up production, and I think a lot of people associate demand going down as a bad thing. I see it as a good thing. If Tesla can match up demand with their production, and when Tesla is growing as quickly as they can, like, it's not necessarily a bad thing that demand goes down. It's like there's an increasingly larger amount of supply. So the fact that demand has scaled with supply so much is honestly mind-boggling and kind of trippy. But when they unveiled the Roadster, really the only point, the whole reason they wanted to do it was to convince people that electric cars could be cool, and could be fast, and could be, the best cars. And the Plaid Model S kind of has already achieved that goal that the Roadster set out to achieve. So the Roadster's just kind of even more so proving that point. Really, the only point of the Roadster is to just, it's marketing. It's a marketing move to just be like, hey, we have a really cool, fast car, and our fast car is faster than other companies' fast car. It doesn't really, like, accelerate EV adoption. So I understand why they've postponed it so many times. But if Tesla wants to be shown more in the media, which it sounds like they probably will now that they're starting to catch up on demand, there was some news today that they might actually be bringing back the referral program, where you can get free supercharging miles and stuff, which I'm pretty excited about. And demand shrinkage is great for the customer. I'm not worried about Tesla. When demand goes down and the wait times aren't as long, I'm not worried that, like, Tesla is going to go bankrupt, because there's clearly a huge market for EVs and a lot of people are going to continue buying Teslas. I don't see that dropping down to nothing. And Tesla has proved in the past that, I mean, just look at the market share growth. It's insane. Um, like, Tesla has proved in the past they would rather sell a vehicle at a loss than just store it. Tesla very rarely in any point in their history will be like, we keep making all these cars, but no one's buying them. So we just have this ever-growing parking lot full of cars. We don't know what to do with them. It's like, no. If Tesla wants to move inventory, they know how to do it. They just haven't had to try very hard lately because demand is off the charts. It's honestly absurd how high the demand is. So much to the point that, like, people in my personal life, I don't recommend buy Teslas. And when people are asking about EVs, I encourage them to consider non-Teslas first, because I feel like Tesla's at this position where maybe it's great for shareholders because Tesla can do whatever they want. You know, they can remove passenger lumbar support, they can remove radar, they can remove the ultrasonic sensors, and none of it really matters because they know someone's going to buy it. Someone's going to order these things. So Tesla has this extreme advantage in the market when they have a product that's so high in demand. If that demand goes down, then Tesla has to try harder to convince people to buy their product. Tesla has to either lower prices or make the product more incentivizing. And the Roadster's purely just marketing. I mean, the Roadster's just a way of saying, here, like, look how cool Tesla as a brand is. And it gets a lot more people talking about Teslas and thinking about the brand as a whole, which I don't think they really need right now, but yeah, he did technically say that they plan on doing the Roadster sometime next year. I don't believe him, but I do think it will probably be by the end of the decade. It's just not a huge priority, and I understand why it isn't. Let's see. I want demand to go down. I'm spending big money on a Model 3 already. It'd be nice if the price was dropped 5,000, maybe 10,000. I can promise you, Alpha, it won't drop that fast. It's definitely not going to drop 5,000 in one move. Tesla will... I've covered Tesla when they did price cuts. I remember back in the day when Tesla was lowering prices. It was like, oh wow, like I remember making a video the day the $35,000 Model 3 came out, and they never dropped prices very drastic. I think the most they ever dropped a vehicle's price that I can remember was like $3,000. That was pretty surprising. Like one day you just wake up and it's $3,000 less. But as long as there's a wait time on vehicle orders, there's no need to drop prices that drastically because it means you'll have to honor that price cut on pending orders. So you're leaving free money on the table. Tesla's only going to cut prices when there's like no wait time. And we're slowly working our way back to no wait time. And by the way, I don't mean like you can buy the car and get it within a day. It still takes time to get your spec to your delivery location. But when everything's working accordingly and you don't have to wait a long time for your vehicle to be built, it will probably take somewhere between 1 to 2 weeks after you press the place order button. So the fact that Tesla's looking to revamp the referral program and that the fact that the wait times are going down means that we might be getting closer to that point where Tesla has to start trying harder to convince more people to buy their car. But it would hurt resale value too. Yeah, I guess that might be looked at as a downside if you're an owner. But I'm not planning on selling my car, so I don't care about that. I'd be extremely happy if they cut prices. I don't care what happens to me or my car because I want to keep this car. So yeah, I'm all in favor. Like I love owning a vehicle that's this efficient, this smooth, and this quiet and so futuristic that has the supercharging network. I want as many people to enjoy this vehicle as much as I have as possible. You know, I want so many people to know what it's like to own a really cool, well thought out electric vehicle. So the lower the price, the better, in my view. I don't care. How has Giga Shanghai been able to ramp so fast and so high while other older factories like Giga Nevada have fallen behind? So just for the record, Giga Nevada has only been building batteries so far. So Giga Nevada isn't really falling behind per se. I mean, the factory is definitely, I mean, can I go down to these things? That's the Fremont factory. That's Berlin. So there's multiple answers to that question, but I just figured we should have a manufacturing photo while I'm talking about this. But Giga Nevada is a factory that Tesla built in partnership with Panasonic. So pretty much all that factory is building is 2170 cells for the Model 3 and Y. And I believe they're also building 1865 cells. I might be remembering that wrong, but I'm pretty sure a lot of the batteries that the Model S and X use are coming from Giga Nevada. Only just recently, with the start of production of Tesla Semi, have they been building vehicles at Giga Nevada. They've not been assembling Model 3s and Ys at Giga Nevada. But yes, the factory footprint was intended to be much larger than it actually is. But Tesla has said that's because of lack of labor force in the Nevada area. So originally they weren't as smart about scouting locations and figuring out you want to build a factory where there's a large labor force, because if you don't have enough people working at the factory, you can't scale. There's no point in building more space or more square footage if there's not enough people to work there. So because Nevada in the Reno area is not very highly populated and there's not that many people willing to work at the factory, they weren't able to scale up Giga Nevada at the rate they wanted it to. But look at Tesla's cash on hand. They show it here in the spreadsheets and stuff. It's not from lack of trying. Tesla has money, but that's why you notice that like Tesla with their next factory locations made sure that they went to places that had a large labor force that they could pull from. So lots of people were moving to Austin. There's a very, very large labor force there, so they had an easy time hiring a bunch of people. I actually have some good friends that ended up getting hired at Giga Texas and are currently working there, which is kind of cool. Yeah, Giga Nevada is cool, but just isn't really able to reach its full potential because of the area it's located in. But I think it's really cool that they're finally building Tesla Semi there. That's awesome. Hi from Norway. I can't afford a Tesla, but at least I have an old electric Kia with about 100 miles of range. Hey, that's cool. As long as you got something electric, right? I hope Teslas get cheaper in your area soon, though, because they are quite amazing vehicles, that's for sure. Okay, and your question, Burnt Toast Brain, was why has Giga Shanghai been able to ramp so fast? Partly because of the government. The Chinese government, for better or for worse, is able to move and skip through permits and skip through legislation a lot faster than pretty much any factory can in the United States. Like Elon has said that obviously Giga Texas and the Austin area is a lot more pro-business than California is, but if they wanted to build a gigafactory like the one in Austin, in California somewhere, it would take years to just get approval for the paperwork to be done. And sometimes you don't want your government moving really fast because that can cause a lot of problems. But one of the advantages to the Chinese government being so quick to act, quick to build things up, having construction crews that work so quickly, is that they were able to go from just a giant field of mud all the way to a fully operating factory building vehicles within less than a year. That's because of legislation and how little paperwork and permits they needed. Also, there's a very large labor force to pull from, a lot of people looking for work in that area, and because they had already ramped the Model 3 and Y in Fremont, so they kind of knew what they were getting into, they had all of these enhancements. They had found ways of accelerating deployment of machinery and figuring out the most effective way to ramp a vehicle. So basically, they had practice. They had practice ramping the Model 3 and Y, so they kind of knew what mistakes to avoid because they had a more streamlined manufacturing approach. We're talking about Giga Shanghai. I should show Giga Shanghai. Tesla doesn't have the picture here in the shareholder deck, but I've seen it before where they showcased that Fremont had all these like crazy lines and like all these parts have to be moved to different parts of the factory because the Fremont factory was not built by Tesla. They bought it out from, I think it was General Motors or Toyota. Yeah, it was some legacy auto factory that they bought it from, and it was just not optimized for electric vehicle production. So they've had to rearrange a lot of things, and that's why it's still kind of sloppy. Whereas Giga Shanghai, they got to build from the ground up. And it's a lot more streamlined. They know exactly how to lay out the factory, kind of like a microchip is the way he's described it. Elon is said that like you arrange things to minimize distance between steps and have as many like moving parts as possible so that as you're moving one part of the vehicle to the next stage of development, something gets done and produced along the way. So there's honestly, Giga Shanghai is ramped so fast because it's Tesla's first real factory. Like, Giga Nevada was just for batteries, primarily, and Fremont was bought by Tesla. It wasn't built by Tesla. Giga Shanghai was the first, like, gigafactory that they had full control over from the ground up. So, that's why I think Giga Shanghai ramped so quickly. Plus, the government support is very strong there. China was very much in favor of Tesla building stuff locally. Oh, it was a joint factory. It was GM and Toyota. Okay. Do you still believe Cybertruck will be released with a smaller battery pack than originally announced? Yes, detecting the shore. I'm okay believing that and encouraging people of that, because if I'm wrong, great. It's great news if I'm wrong. But if I'm right, you'd be setting yourself up for disappointment by not believing me. I just think that Rivian has had tremendous success with the scale-up production of the R1T and the R1S, and there's no shortage of demand there, right? There is so much insane demand for electric pickup trucks. Let's jump to the vehicle capacity page, because yes, Cybertruck is listed as tooling. That's so great. I'm so happy about that. Because there's and Ford has no shortage of demand for the F-150 Lightning either, right? Like, there's so many people ordering the F-150 Lightning. Even GM, as crazy as this sounds, General Motors had to shut off orders on the Hummer EV because too many people were ordering the Hummer EV, and I think that's like a terrible vehicle. I don't know why people want to buy that thing, but there's a ton of people buying it because there's just so much demand for electric trucks and there's so little supply. And I'm convinced that no matter what the energy density is of the 4680, right now it's not very high based on the cells we've seen with the 4680 Model Y. You know, it's a standard range. It's not a long range. It's not even that much lighter than the long range. And I'm sorry, a lot of people were hoping, well, maybe via software update later, they'll unlock more range. Yeah, no, it didn't happen. It's just the energy density of the 4680 pack is just not very high. It's not that good. And I have a feeling that there's been a lot of bottlenecks and a lot of holdups with 4680 ramping, which Tesla admitted up here, I think, earlier, where it says Gigafactory Texas and 4680. Oh, yeah. Ramp inefficiencies from Giga Berlin, Giga Texas, and 4680 cell production. So, along with ramp, yeah. So that, like, they're basically saying that they're having a hard time ramping the 4680 cells. My theory, I don't think they necessarily confirmed this in the event, in the shareholder deck anywhere, but this would be a great question for the earnings call. I hope someone asks this. The Hummer EV is selling because of the cool factor. Well, the Cybertruck will sell even 10 times as much as the Hummer EV for the cool factor. The Cybertruck is, in my opinion, way more iconic and way more cool than the Hummer. But anyway, my theory is that Tesla has figured out a way to ramp high energy dense 4680 cells. I think earlier they mentioned they've started work at Cato Road on the next generation 4680. Oh, no, not Cato Road. Maybe it was Giga Texas. At Texas, they said they've started work on like the next generation 4680 cell. So my theory is the 4680 Model Y that they're not building anymore, but that they started production with, that's prototype 1. That's Gen 1 4680 cell. It was meant as a proof of concept, like, can we deliver? The earnings call starts in about an hour. Can we make a vehicle with a structural battery pack? Can we make a vehicle with 4680 cells? And it worked. It was like a practice run for the factory. But what they quickly realized when they started building 4680 Model Ys is we can't build that many of them because we can't build 4680 cells that quickly. Like Tesla said, they're having ramp inefficiencies with this new form factor. So my theory is they can build 4680 cells, but not at the extreme scale they want. Like, and I do mean extreme. When you think about it, like Giga Berlin just crossed 2,000 Model Ys built in a week. Here's Berlin. In 1 week, they built 2,000 Model Ys, right? And they're all using 2170 cells. Think about how many freaking batteries that is. It's honestly insane. So, like, a 70... What is it? I think it's in the 80s now, right? Isn't it like a close to... Let's just say it's 80. I'm probably a little bit off. But an 80 kilowatt hour battery pack, and in 1 week, you built 2,000. That's like 160... 160,000 kilowatt hours worth of batteries built in a 7-day block. Now you times that out to like a month, we're talking like nearly a gigawatt hour worth of cells, or a little bit over half a gigawatt hour worth of cells to be consumed within a month. And I just don't think the 4680s are at that volume yet. But the Tesla Semi started production. Like that's happened. That's that's listed in the chart now. It's early production with first delivery scheduled for December of this year. My theory is that because the Tesla Semi is in low volume production, it's likely using the next generation higher energy density 4680 cells because the payload capacity matters a lot with the Semi because you want to, you want to have a low weight vehicle because your total weight of the actual tractor part of the truck eats into your payload capacity, but they're not building Tesla Semi at high volume, right? They're just building it at Giga Nevada, so they don't need half a gigawatt hour worth of cells to build the Tesla Semi. Even though, yes, it is a very large vehicle and it needs to go 500 miles on a charge, and the batteries are going to be huge in those cars. Let's assume, I know there's probably a standard range. There's probably a standard range Tesla Semi with only 300 miles of range, but for the record, Elon's only mentioned that they're starting production with the 500-mile range variant. Let's just assume that's a 1 megawatt hour battery pack. But if Tesla is building, I don't know, let's say, nice round number or something, like, I don't know, 50? Maybe 100. 100's a nice round number. They're building 100 Tesla semis a month at Giga Nevada. If each one needs 1,000 kilowatt hours, also known as 1 megawatt hour, that's only 100 megawatt hours worth of batteries you would need to start production of the Semi per month versus like over six times that for Model Y. And by the way, that 2,000 metric that we're talking about for Giga Berlin, that they're still ramping. Like right now they're at 2,000 a week, but they're hoping that within the next few quarters they're going to be doing like 5,000 a week. And that's when they're closer to their target goal of like, close to, 200,000, 500,000 vehicles per year. Once they reach that they consider the factory fully ramped. Whereas I think Giga Nevada would probably be comfortable with Tesla Semi being 50 vehicles a month or 100 vehicles a month. It doesn't need to be high volume. Do you think the Model 3 will surpass 400 miles of range within the next couple of years? No, I personally don't. I think that range is not what's preventing EV adoption. I think that a lot of people want Teslas, they just don't have the money for them. And Tesla would probably lower prices before they would increase range. When's Sandy Monroe getting his hands on them semis? Gotta tear that down. That would be so expensive, but yes, I agree. That would be insanely cool. I have seen a source saying the Semi uses 2170s, but I'm not sure. I've heard that as well. I don't know if it's a trustworthy source, but they didn't say. I hope that gets asked on the earnings call because I would love to know. I would really love to know what cells that if the Semi is using 2170 cells, then I have lost all faith in the 4680s. I have no clue why Tesla's even bothering with those anymore. I would just say, yeah, that's not going anywhere. Been waiting for Model Y since March. The estimated delivery date was supposed to start from yesterday, but we changed it to cash to loan like a week ago, and now it is November 24th to December 28th. Wow. Sorry about that wait, Mr. Gamer. That sucks. Do you think Tesla will ever get around to retooling the S3 and X to use single casting? It would make... I don't know about the S and X. They're not extremely high volume vehicles. Giga castings make a lot of sense when you're building millions of something. Model S and X, like they have here on the installed annual capacity, they're really only targeting a production rate of around 100,000 a year. They're not currently building that many. I think they built, what was it, like 19,000 this quarter? So they're getting close to their max capacity with the S and X, but that's not a very high volume, which means that the castings would not be that there wouldn't be that much cost savings. Model 3, I think they're just waiting for the demand to die down. Once there's no one ordering Model 3s, it would be okay to like shut down production for a little while and install some new gigapresses to help lower the cost of building them. But until that point comes, which we're not quite there yet, I know that the wait time is not as long as it used to be. But there's a guy who commented, I don't know if I finished this story earlier. There's a guy who commented on my video that he ordered a Model 3 at the end of August, and the estimated delivery date was November, December, and then they ended up just texting him like yesterday that his vehicle was ready. So it was actually ready ahead of schedule. So I get the feeling that maybe Tesla's demand is finally starting to catch up, but I have a lot of theories on why that's happening. I don't think it's necessarily that the demand is slowing. I think Tesla is just reorganizing logistics a little bit wiser, because in case you forgot, Tesla still does not let you order the Model 3 long range, but they're still building a crap ton of Model 3s at Fremont. So my guess is that they're probably importing. So you can see here, it's still grayed out. My guess is that they are importing more and more lithium iron phosphate batteries, and because there's such a large price gap, I know that a lot of people are like, well, people just blow as much money as they can on Teslas. And I'm like, I'm sure a lot of people are comfortable dropping 63, 67, or 90,000, whatever it is, on Teslas. But the fact that there's a $47,000 Model 3 right here, and the next cheapest Tesla is $16,000 more, there's got to be a pretty huge influx of orders for this model. Like, especially when the long range went away. There must have been a huge number of people that are like, well, I can't drop 63, but, I wanted the long range, but it's not there, so I guess I'll just settle for the rear-wheel drive. 272 is not that bad. Plus, word getting around, I'm taking too much credit for this, but I'm saying to myself, hey, more and more people are buying the lithium iron phosphate rear-wheel drive Model 3 and saying, hey, this is great. This is not a bad car at all. The range is fantastic. The efficiency is good. The supercharging network is awesome. So there's got to be a larger number of people willing to opt for the Model 3 rear-wheel drive now that the long range is missing. But I think that they've devoted more of the Model 3 assembly line to the rear-wheel drive than there used to be. Before, it was probably like the production was, it's probably not this, but roughly, let's say 40% Model 3 rear-wheel drive, 40% Model 3 long range, and then like 20% Model 3 performance. That's all Model 3 manufacturing going on, right? You got your 3 tiers. Then they turned off Model 3 long range, and they're still delivering long ranges to people who ordered them, but they likely were able to... Oh, you can't see it? Sorry. I'm like reading the chat, and looking at the live stream all at the same time. Oh yeah, it is a bit cut off. Sorry about that. Hopefully that adjusts just a tiny bit. There we go. My Model 3 cost out the door with like taxes and fees and everything put together about $50,500. But that included a California Clean Fuel Reward, which is not available anymore. And I ordered my vehicle when it was listed at $45,000, not $47,000. So the price has gone up since I ordered mine. But yes, I'm very happy with my model. There's no other vehicle on the market I would have rather bought. Just the affordability, and even though it's a very expensive car, just the size is great. I like autopilot. I like supercharging. I like home charging. I like the phone key, like everything. Oh my God, don't get me started on how much I love this car. This live stream will go on for too long. Michael says, used inventory is a great deal if you want a Tesla, and it's especially great if you want one soon. You can get a 2019 Standard Range Plus with FSD from 36 to 41,000, depending on the spec condition. Love those. Yeah, you probably can. It's not a bad choice, but my only issue with buying used inventory is they don't show you photos of the car. So there often have been times where people have gotten used inventory and they have cosmetic problems or things are damaged on them. And Tesla is all in the lead and has all of the advantages when it comes to, selling to customers, because they know the demand is so high. So if you back out and you decide you don't want to take delivery, Tesla will get to keep your $500 deposit. So there's downsides to going used too, but especially if you do care about full self-driving, then yes, I would say used is a good way to go. But there can be a lot of miles on them, and you don't necessarily sure what problems they've had because they're kind of quiet with the used inventory models. But Tesla has mentioned that they have a insanely high growing used vehicle market because of their website and letting you choose between used inventory. Is there a way to get rid of this? There we go. That's a little better, I think. Quarter in cash equivalents, short term, offset by debt repayments of $0.9 billion. $21 billion. Wow. Free cash flow of $3.3 billion. Operating income improved year over year, resulting in a 17.2% operating margin. That's great. So Sorry, I probably didn't answer the question earlier, but my point is, I think that even if you found a way to mass produce 4680 cells with a very high energy density, it would still be more practical to build 300-mile range Cybertrucks because you could build more of them. You could go through the backlog faster. It would be cheaper to make, and I don't think it really matters ultimately that much how much the Cybertruck range is because people are going to buy them even if they're super expensive, even if they're 100. That's what the Hummer EV has proven to me. Even the fact that the Hummer EV is back ordered and they had to turn off orders because so many people were buying them is like, there's so much pent up demand and so little supply that like every Cybertruck they make will sell for over six figures, in my view. Sure, they'll lose a bunch of people. I'm sure like 80. I'm fully expecting 80 to 90% of Cybertruck reservations to be canceled. And I still don't think people understand how high the demand is. Is like you could cancel 90% of Cybertruck reservations and you would still have a multi-year backlog because there's just an insane number of people that reserve Cybertrucks. And especially when they start being built and they start being driven around, even more people are going to want one once they realize it's real and it's not a concept vehicle anymore, you know? So, and they see that the practicality of the exoskeleton and the supercharging network and the rear wheel steering and the acceleration, and there's going to be so many advantages to going with a Cybertruck. I don't think whether it's a 400-mile range, 500-mile range, or 300-mile range, every single one will sell for over six figures. So if Tesla knows that and they know they have this insane demand for it, why wouldn't you try to make it as cheap as possible because you know it's going to sell? Things like the powertrain or the rear wheel steering and stuff is not ultimately that pricey on the cost of manufacturing, that from what I can tell, based on what Tesla said about building the Plaid powertrain. It's complicated, but once you're mass producing powertrains at scale, they're not ultimately that pricey. That's why they love putting dual motors and everything. They put two motors everywhere because it's so cheap to put in. But when you have a higher motor count on the vehicle, you can justify charging a lot more for it. Let's see. You never know with Elon. I want a Model Y so bad, but too expensive right now with the current trims. I'm with you there, Harvey. I know exactly how you felt. I wanted a Model Y, to be frank. I really wanted the Model Y. Both me and my wife thought that was going to be the better model for us. And we were hoping that prices would go down, and instead they got worse. The prices got much, much higher, and the specs didn't really improve all that much. So we ultimately decided that as cool as the Model Y was, we could probably get by with the Model 3. So we compromised and got the Model 3. But yeah, I know exactly how you feel, Harvey. Especially when I'm helping, older people get into the car and they have to fall into it. I really miss the ride height of the Model Y. I really, really prefer that. I don't really need a hatchback, but it's, of course, nice to have one. The Model Y is objectively more practical than the Model 3, just from the storage space and the hatch design. And the ride height is more comfortable, but I'm sorry, it's freaking $20,000 more, basically, than the car I bought. And the range is not that much different. Especially when you factor in that this is a nickel-based battery, so 330-mile range, but you're charging it to 80% every day, which turns more into 50 miles of range. And that's going to degrade a lot faster than the lithium iron phosphate. So the range advantage is almost nothing to me. They almost break even. But it's still a better vehicle. I don't deny that. But in the same logic, I would also argue the Model X is a better vehicle. I prefer the Falcon Wing doors. I prefer the yoke. I prefer the windshield of the Model X. I prefer the self-presenting doors. The interior design of the Model X, I think, is better. But it also costs a lot more, so can't justify it. So I kind of look at the Model Y the same way a lot of people would look at the Model X. Is like, yeah, it's cool, but it's too expensive, or, some people don't like those Falcon Wing doors, but I love them. Long range 2023 Model 3s are available on existing inventory and will start delivery next month. What? I didn't see that. Tesla targeting, that's probably from denied deliveries is what I'm thinking. Ter says Tesla targeting 460,000 deliveries / production is pretty insane. I know, that's a great metric. I just took delivery of the exact same car, white on white, rear wheel drive, and I really love it. Have you been surprised as me at the amount of phantom drain? The car consumes like 10 to 12 miles per night. I'm sorry, Dave, I can't say I do, just because I plug my car. My car is plugged in as we speak. Whenever it's at home, it's plugged in. I never just let the car sit unplugged in, because the owner's manual says always be charging as much as you can. Keep the car plugged in, because the battery management system knows what to do as long as it has power, and that'll preserve the battery the best. So no, I haven't noticed any phantom drain. But uh, if you're using Sentry mode, that'll definitely chew through energy pretty quick. I don't know if you are, but I did. I guess we didn't, when we slept in the car overnight when we went to San Diego. We left the HVAC on, and I think we had Sentry mode on too. And yeah, it consumed a couple percent. I remember it going down, but I guess I just kind of had that expectation going in. 2023 long range Model 3s on existing inventory. Really, that's interesting. Well, that means they're already built. Oh my gosh, I'm lost. Where is it? New. Rear wheel drive, rear wheel drive. Oh, let's check this one. Oh, okay. I see. Yeah, 2023 Model 3 coming soon to Reno for local delivery. So it's not even there yet. So there's still. Yeah, that one doesn't even have. It's still 58,000. Expected to be built and available for delivery in November, December. That's so weird. They put it in existing inventory, but it doesn't exist. How are they allowed to do that? I don't get why they say all these say expected to be built. Expected to be built. I haven't seen one 2023 model. I guess that would make sense. Why would they say it's a 2023 model, but it's already built? What about charging to 90%? Side note, I also wanted a Model Y, but in the performance trim because reasons, and I'm seeing now how tight of a fit it is for my toddler in her albeit tank of a car seat. Really? It's a tight fit, I guess. Why don't you value EV range the same way you value your phone battery? Yes, you might not need it all daily, but if you can be higher, why not? Wouldn't hurt. On the contrary, more range is always a plus. Mainly because you handle your car a lot. My car has a different battery chemistry than my phone, and my phone cost a whole lot less than my car. So yeah, I'm going to treat them differently. I'm not saying it's bad to have more EV range. The difference is my phone with my 13 Pro Max has a longer battery than the 13 Pro, but that's a difference of $100. The difference between a long range Model 3 and a standard range Model 3 is like, what is this, 58? So $11,000. That's a very large price difference between the two vehicles, and one of them has a chemistry that wants to be charged to 100%. It's not that, like, if it was free, sure. Like, if I'm not saying no more range. It's not like if Tesla offered me a software update, would you like to have 50 miles more of range? I'd be like, sure, yeah, more range is nice, but I'm just saying it's not $11,000 nice. I'm not willing to spend an extra 11 grand to save. Ultimately, it comes down to trip time, right? Like, I'm not worried about my EV, even the standard range Model 3. It can handle a day where there's more driving than usual. Like I told that story the other day of driving up to visit some friends up north and then driving south to the airport and out to a restaurant and then back home. I drove this car for like 4 hours without charging, and it was fine. It got me through a day of more than usual driving. No problem. So day to day, I know it can get me through, but whereas like a phone that deteriorates with high cycles within 2 years, if it can't get you through the day within 2 years, then now the phone is kind of, missing out on a lot of its functionality. We're talking specifically about road trips is why you would want the long range, unless you're the type of person that just regularly drives over 200 miles per day. Then it's a different discussion. But if you're not driving 200 miles a day, which is most people, the extra range you're paying for with the long range is buying you, depending on the road trip you're doing, 30 minutes of time, 40 minutes of time. It's like, okay, maybe on a really long trip, it makes the difference between 2 hours. So you saved 2 hours on a road trip, but you had to spend an extra $11,000. Was that time that valuable? Or would you rather take a little bit longer on the drive and have $11,000 in your pocket that you could invest in stock and do whatever you want with? right? So I guess I it's not that I don't value EV range, it's just that I think that, average daily driving for most Americans is somewhere between 30 and 40 miles. So there are, of course, days where you drive a lot more than that, but are those occasional days where you drive a lot further, even more than 200 miles, are those days worth the extra $10,000, $11,000? For some people it is, and for me it wasn't. So that's why I don't value it that much. Mark says, need a smaller car seat, another growth spurt, and it'll be even more cumbersome trying to get her in and out of it. Might have to trade up even if it's not a performance trim. Wait, are you saying... I forgot, Mark. Which car do you have? Does Mark have the Model 3 and he's thinking about getting the Y? Or do you have the Model Y? Can't see. Windows cut off. Oh, yeah, sorry. A lot of people are canceling orders or waiting to order for post-January 1st delivery. Only will get worse as we get closer. I just think that's a terrible idea, personally. The tax credit is so wish-washy. Everyone, I just want to remind you guys, everyone did the exact same thing last year because they thought there was going to be a big, giant federal tax credit that came in 2022, and then it didn't. And now we're all waiting for it again, but it's it's not very clear what qualifies. It's like you have to have a certain percentage of the materials in the battery pack mined from inside the United States, but that's not entirely clear because Tesla does import a lot of their materials for their battery pack. So the Model Y might qualify for half the tax credit, but the Model 3 rear-wheel drive might not qualify for anything, in which case, why are people canceling it? I think they think they're going to get a big deal or a big price cut if they wait till next year, and my guess is it's not going to be as good as they think. They might get a little bit of a tax credit, but as soon as the tax credit is officially rolled out, I bet Tesla's going to start raising prices even more so. But at this point, like, even if I got the full, what is it, $7,500 or $8,000, even if you got the full $7,500 tax credit on a Model Y, it would still be like 11 grand more than my Model 3 was, which, I'm sorry, as cool as the Model Y is, I wouldn't pay an extra $11,000 for the Model Y. We were close. My wife and I agreed, like, before we bought the car, we were like, we would spend like an extra $4,000 or $5,000 on a Model Y. That's how much those features are worth it to us. The hatch and the higher ride height and the longer range occasionally. But would we spend an extra 10, 11, or in this case $20,000 more for the Model Y? No, it's not that different. Cybertruck updates on call, maybe an event next month for trucks. I would love an event for trucks, but I don't think it's going to happen. My guess is that most of the updates for the Cybertruck are not going to be very good, because I'm predicting that the range is going to be worse than we think and the price is going to be worse than we think. I guess they could do an event where they talk about the rear wheel steering and the, driving through the water and the redesign of the door handles, and I think they added a driver display behind the yoke as well. But I feel like most of that could probably be a site refresh. I don't know if they need a whole event for that. I've only driven the long range 3 and Y. The long range is epically fast. Do you know the performance difference? A friend and I rented a long range Y for a trip. Oh, yeah. My good friend Mike, who's in the chat, has a dual motor Model Y who I've ridden in. And just a couple months ago, I had an overnight test drive with the Model 3 dual motor, the long range option. I can't remember. It might have had the acceleration boost. Maybe it didn't. But all I know is I don't like going that fast. Some people love it, and good for you. If you like wearing out your tires a lot faster and, having to service your tires more frequently, okay, that's your call. If you enjoy it and that brings you joy, I'm not here to judge. But if you're just asking me what I like, I hate roller coasters. I don't go on roller coasters for fun. That make me uncomfortable. And I have been in the dual motor Model Y, and Mike has floored it many times with me in the car. And I've also driven the Model 3 dual motor, the 2022 model, and I floored it in that thing and done the 0 to 60, and oh my god, it's fast. I know it's really, really quick, but it just doesn't. It stresses me out. It makes me feel sick, and I never drive like that, and I would probably never drive like that. I don't. I bought the slowest Tesla for a reason. And by the way, I have my Model 3 rear-wheel drive in chill mode 100% of the time. The acceleration is set to chill because even this car, when we first got it, and I I never did a 0 to 60 with it, but I did accelerate to get on the on ramp as soon as we got it, and I was immediately like, wow, this is still crazy fast. It's This car goes faster than I'm comfortable going. And yeah, both the long range and the performance are still insanely fast for me. I'm just not a performance guy. That's just not my thing. That doesn't bring me joy. That just stresses me out, and it makes me think about how poorly the tires are aging. Every time you floor it, you wear out the tires a lot more. Um, Took a Model 3 for a test drive for the first time on the weekend. Regen takes some getting used to, and the turning radius is larger than I thought. Yeah, that's true. ID4 definitely has the better turning radius, no doubt. But trust me, Mike, you'll get used to the regen very quickly. I know it's a little different, but um, once you get adjusted to it, it's so much better. Frankly, I hate driving cars that don't have one pedal driving anymore. Which I've done. I've occasionally had to drive our old car just to make sure that it keeps running. Or when my Model 3 was in service, we had to drive the Sonata, and going back to two pedal driving was terrible. So it's a little weird at first, but you'll love it. You'll love it. LFP standard range Model Y could be an insta buy for me if they get the pricing right. Yeah, it's already a thing in China, and I think you can buy it in Europe now too. Um, I wish that's what we were waiting for. The whole reason we originally said we were going to get a Model Y is because we were pretty confident. We thought they were going to launch the LFP Model Y in 2022, and they didn't. They ended up just keeping the long range and raising the price on the long range. But I really like the lithium iron phosphate chemistry, and we really like the Model Y. It's a shame they can't make that work in the US for some reason. But yeah, there isn't, it's still not here. But it's a great buy. I think you can get it in Australia too, which I have family there, so I'm tempted to go to Australia just so I can get a lithium iron phosphate Model Y. The steering wheel would be on the wrong side, but it would be a lot. It's a lot cheaper too. The LFP Model Y translates roughly to like, I think it's like $50,000 in the U.S. if you converted the currencies. Um, if what you say is true about Cybertruck pricing and range, then an update event wouldn't make sense, right? No one will want to hype up a worse product than you promised. Right. That's my thought process. Is like, I'm sure there's a lot of updates to the Cybertruck, like the rear wheel steering and like the quad motor. They at the event they never said they would do a quad motor. Now they've said they would, and the no steering wheel and the updated interior. No door handles. There's still a steering yoke. So I'm sure there's some design changes, but I think the biggest spec changes would not be very interesting, and they're going to disappoint a very large number of people. Which is why I try to warn as many people as I can. I was like, understand Tesla's mission statement, and you'll understand that a 500-mile range Cybertruck makes no sense. There's very little reason for them to make that. And yeah, I wish the Model Y had the turning radius of the ID4 too. That would be nice. Uh, I was pleasantly surprised the other day. I took a wrong turn, and we needed to flip a Yui down just a pretty quiet residential street. And I thought the turning radius was pretty good, but maybe my Sonata just doesn't have good turning radius either, and I'm just used to it being like that. But um, heavy duty, but it's the car seat from Kleck model 5 is well made, heavy duty, but its bolsters take away space from getting her in and out, put her in an angle to duck, and not hit against the headliner B pillar. Yeah, or D pillar, sorry. Yeah, we had that talk for a while that the Model Y would probably be better as a family car, no question. But we don't have a baby right now, so, and I don't think we're gonna have a baby anytime soon. We'll try our best to get by with the Model 3 though. I've seen a lot of people that say that Model 3 works for them as a family vehicle. Um, Only event for Cybertruck in the future is a delivery day, like the updated S and X. All the new features will be shown on the site or leaked or talked about by Elon, either a Twitter or an event. Yeah, I think it'll probably just be like a website update. They'll probably, because right now they've done nothing literally with the Cybertruck website other than remove things. If you go to the Cybertruck tab here, this is the exact same landing page they had 3 years ago. And in fact, they used to have a specs page where you could compare the specs of the single, dual, and tri-motor, and they got rid of that. And when you'd hit the order now button, there used to be a way to select which trim you wanted or add full self-driving, but now it's all gone. So they've basically just removed more and more stuff as time has gone by. So one day I think we might just... Whoop, there goes my alarm. one day they may just we wake up and it has brand new pictures and all new specs, and they talk about the starting price and the range figures, and it'll disappoint a bunch of people, and Tesla will just be really, really quiet for a few weeks, and then they'll say, hey, delivery event coming up. Wow, Hasiel, thank you so much for the super chat. That's nice of you. Thoughts on buying a Tesla without autopilot? Well, autopilot comes for free, so don't worry about that. For people who just like to drive, do you think if you're buying a Tesla, you should go all into the technological future of self-driving?
Yes.
No, I bought a Tesla and I subscribed to FSD for 1 month, and then I was like, okay, that's good enough for me. I consider myself a futurist and a fairly techie guy, but full self-driving's crazy. It's $15,000. It comes with autopilot for free, so that you don't need to worry about buying that. And the autopilot works pretty well. It gets the job done. Honestly, there's some circumstances where I found the free version of autopilot can perform better than the navigate on autopilot. So I think most people who buy Teslas should. I don't think I'd recommend anybody buy full self-driving at this point. If you have $15,000 in cash sitting around, you'd be better off investing that in the stock market and then just subscribing to FSD, because the full self-driving is locked to the car. So if you spend 15 grand on full self-driving and then you get in a car crash and the vehicle's totaled, you don't necessarily get that money back. That's just money down the drain. Whereas the subscription, you just pay as you go. There may be certain times of the year where you really want to use full self-driving. Maybe you use it all the time. Maybe you use it every day. In which case, I guess maybe you could justify it. But I feel like most people probably would be fine with basic autopilot and then just subscribing to FSD a couple times out of the year. Like, that's my plan. Even when full self-driving was $10,000, I didn't think it was worth it. I just thought for a software package, even if it did drive itself entirely, I just don't think that's worth 10 grand. I think I'd rather drive myself around. I don't drive enough to justify spending $10,000. It'd be one thing if the liability changed to where, like, you can fall asleep at the wheel, you can watch movies while the car is driving. Maybe I could start to see that, but it's not even close to that level of autonomous. It's still just like the car does more things for you, but you still have to keep your hand on the wheel. You have to pay attention. Even if they rolled out the FSD beta to everybody and anybody who wanted the beta could instantly get it, I still don't think that feature is worth $15,000. It's cool. I mean, it's, as a techie person, it's interesting to watch the car try to figure out complex situations, but would you pay a person in your life to, like, what if you had someone that said, if you pay me $15,000, I'll drive you anywhere you want to go? Would you do it? I wouldn't. I'd be like, nah, thanks. I'd rather have $15,000 and I'll just drive myself. Teslas are pretty fun to drive, to be honest. They're kind of enjoyable. The one pedal driving, and for some of you, the acceleration, and just how smooth the ride feels, and just it's so graceful, and the little whine of the electric motor is kind of satisfying, and it's fun. I used to not like driving very much, but then I got a Tesla and I kind of don't mind it so much anymore. What is the difference between the free autopilot and the $6,000 enhanced version? Oh, there's a lot. Why am I on the Cybertruck page? Why aren't you on the Cybertruck page, Quado? Everybody, follow along with me in sending $100 to Elon Musk. No, we were looking at the shareholder deck, but we just kind of got the most interesting points. Solar deployed, not as much as last quarter, but yeah, we got the most interesting stuff through. Cybertruck's listed as tooling in the status phase, and Tesla Semi says early production, which is cool. What is the difference? Oh, yeah, that's true. If you want to know the difference between enhanced autopilot and full self-driving, basically the only difference with full self-driving is you get the chance of maybe being opted into the beta where the car can go through turns and roundabouts and stuff. But here it is. So yeah, navigate on autopilot, which means it automatically changes lanes on the freeway. Auto lane change, which means, like, you could be in, even if you're not using navigate on autopilot, you could be on a highway, signal left and the car will go into the left lane, signal right, it'll automatically go in the right lane. Autopilot doesn't do that, the free version. Auto park, which I only got to use once, and it wasn't very good. Autopark's pretty disappointing. Summon just lets you from the phone app move the car forward or backward. Smart Summon will have the car come and get you where you are in a parking lot, but that is also insanely slow. It's much, much slower than just walking to the car, in my experience. It's very skittish. It's very hesitant. Sometimes it takes the complete wrong direction. But Elon says there's some updates coming to Smart Summon soon. He says actually Smart Summon should be ready soon, and maybe I'll subscribe to FSD again once there's something else I can test. But why aren't you on the semi page? Ooh, even good one, even better one. So yeah, for the extra $9,000 more, oh my god, you can get full self-driving, which means everything that the other packages include, and traffic light and stop sign control, which in my experience are not all that great. Having to confirm on the gear stock every time the light turns green is annoying, and when you have traffic light and stop sign control, anytime there's a yellow flashing light, the car will slow down. I noticed that once my full self-driving expired, and I went back to free autopilot, it doesn't do that anymore. With free autopilot, it will just keep going at the same speed, even when there's yellow lights flashing on the side of the freeway. So I was like, oh, this is much better. So seriously, like there's a nearby town we drive to for like groceries and visiting friends and family and stuff. And we have to drive on that freeway usually 2 or 3 times a week. And honestly, the experience was much better with the free version of autopilot, because there's so many yellow flashing lights, and they're not even like driving warnings. They're just like, tune in to this radio station, or they're like, there's a traffic light coming up, but it's so far away. It's like, yeah, I mean, I'm tempted, frankly. I don't know if I've had a chance to talk about this. I've been more tempted to buy enhanced autopilot. I still think it's very expensive at $6,000. That's a lot for some software packages. I like auto lane change. I used that quite a bit when I'm on the freeway and I just want to get into a different lane. Just signal and move the car. The only reason I like that, though, is because, not that I'm lazy and I don't want to turn the steering wheel, you don't have to deactivate autopilot to pass someone. That's the biggest annoyance of free autopilot, is like, okay, it won't hit the car in front of you. It will change speed. It'll speed up and slow down. It'll stay between the lines. But if someone's going slow in front of you and you want to go past them, you have to turn it off. And it has to make a sound. You cannot turn the sounds off. And that bugs the heck out of me. I hate those noises. Even I had Joe mode on. The day I got the car, I turned on Joe mode. I've never turned it off. Joe mode is not that quiet. Joe mode almost sounds identical. It's not, Joe mode is not that different. But every time I want to pass someone, I have to move into the next lane. Okay, now I'm on autopilot again. Slowly get past the semi-truck. Now I want to move over, get back into the right lane. Boom, boom. Get over. Boom, boom. The sounds. It's literally just auto lane change means I don't have to deactivate autopilot to pass people, which I love. So that feature I liked. Also, not talked about or probably used by that many people, I really love Summon. Not necessarily Smart Summon, because that one's kind of hairy and doesn't always work that well. But when you're getting into tight parking spaces, or you want to readjust your parking once you're out of the car, just being able to take out your phone and move the car forward slowly, inch by inch, or moving it backward slowly, is really nice. It's like having a giant remote controlled car. You can just open the app and be like, oh, let me fix that a little bit, and you just hit forward and then it moves forward, because I'm always paranoid that I'm going to run the little bumper on the front into a parking barrier. And I look at the ultrasonic sensors and it says, oh, you're getting really, really close. And then I look out and I have a lot more room than I thought. So I move it up from the phone. Now that I don't have full self-driving anymore because my subscription expired, that's what I miss the most, to be honest. Summon was the most fun. And Smart Summon is definitely a party trick, but who doesn't like party tricks? Navigate on autopilot just kind of annoyed me. Every time I used it, it just kept playing. So, yeah, the video I did on the road trip where it kept doing that over and over again, that was not the only time. It continued to do that. And oftentimes the automatic lane changing is not very impressive to me, because it's not very strategic. It's like, oh, I want to pass this guy, but it doesn't see that there's a really fast car coming from further behind. And if we change lanes now, we're going to get right in his way, or we're going to risk hitting him. Or it doesn't see like, oh, let's get into the right lane again because we don't want to be in the passing lane. But there's a big semi truck that's going really slow, just a little bit further ahead, but it's not taking that into context. So I'm not super happy with Navigate on autopilot, to be frank. It's cool when it takes the off ramp. I think that's probably the coolest part is when you're just driving on the road, the exit's coming up, and it automatically turns on the blinker and takes the exit. That's cool, but not that frequent. And especially when I'm showing the car to other people, they're never that impressed with autopilot because I have to keep my hand on the wheel. And as long as I have my hand on the wheel, they're like, "Oh, but you're still driving." And I'm like, "No, the car's doing that." And they're like, "Yeah, but you're really there because you have to keep holding it." It would be a lot cooler if it was eye tracking and I could just keep my hands off the wheel, but it doesn't do that. Um, I could technically keep my hands off the wheel and then just touch the scroll wheel every couple minutes, but that makes my wife uncomfortable anyway. What's always been more impressive to people is Smart Summon. When I'm like in a parking lot or even at a friend's house, I've used it at my grandma's house. I wanted to show them that the car could, come and get us or drive itself. And there's like other cars at a friend's house that it avoided. So I just held down the come get me button and it moved around all the other cars in the parking lot. That was really cool. I thought like anytime someone sees the car moving with no one inside it, they're much more impressed than autopilot. Autopilot people honestly don't even know what's going on. They're like, why is it making that sound? I'm like, well, the car's driving. They're like, but you're still grabbing the wheel. It's like, honestly, they have a point though. Like, what's the point of self-driving if you have to keep your hand on the wheel? It's like, if my hand's on the wheel, shouldn't I might as well just keep driving anyway? I mean, imagine if for cruise control to work, you had to keep your foot on the pedal. That's kind of what it feels like to me, honestly. Um, your name's not Joe, but I agree it's still loud, and I dislike lowering volume in addition to loud alerts, and also that auto lowering when you open a door. Auto lowering. I like that when I'm like listening to music and I open the door and it gets quieter. I just feel like if I get a Tesla without the fancy navigation technology, I'd be like, why didn't you just get a 25K car if you aren't going to take advantage of the tech? There's a lot of tech to take advantage of that doesn't cost extra. I think the phone app has been the coolest part. Just being able to cool the car remotely, set the charge limit from the app, set the charge speed from the app. Just having one singular display on the inside that can play YouTube videos, that can browse the web, that can play video games. The dash cam that's built in, Sentry mode, light show mode has been really fun. The frunk is huge. The trunk is powered. The supercharging network. That's the main reason. If you're arguing, why didn't I just get a 25K car? You're not going to get the supercharging network. That's a huge advantage that Teslas have over pretty much everybody else. Autopilot sounds like adaptive cruise control, correct? Yes. Autopilot uses adaptive cruise control. It just also automatically steers. The definition of adaptive cruise control doesn't involve steering. It just means that the car slows down for cars in front of it and speeds up when available. Can't wait to get mine next year. I'm excited for you, John. The people in new F-150 waving at you with both hands. Well, I drove by an F-150 Lightning the other day and he didn't wave his hands at me, but yeah, they can because they got the eye tracking. I don't know if Blue Cruise is that effective though. So we only got like 15 more minutes until the earnings call should begin, so that's exciting. Yeah, there's lane keeping, but yeah, it's kind of square rectangle thing. Square is a rectangle, but a rectangle isn't a square. Let's see. It's like buying a Mac Studio with M1 Ultra to watch YouTube and write papers. No, I wouldn't compare it to that. You have the hardware. What you're paying for with these packages is access to certain software, which in my opinion, it's just it's infinitely more reasonable to rent the software for 30 days than it is to spend $15,000. It's the equivalent of, you're basically asking the equivalent of like, should I buy a Mac Studio and buy, a $10,000 software package to go with it? Should I buy Cinema 4D and the Mac Studio? It's like, no, I mean, start with the Mac Studio and then use some cheaper software because autopilot is with the car for free. And you can rent that software as you need it. If a new feature comes out, like right now, you can't get the full self-driving beta. Even if you pay for the subscription, you have to wait and hopefully get enrolled, but you don't know if you're going to get enrolled. It's a really fishy process that I'll probably do a whole video explaining why I don't have full self-driving beta despite doing everything right. Um, but let's say Elon's right and later in the year they roll out FSD beta to everybody so that anyone who subscribes to it has access to it. You have the hardware. The full self-driving chip is in the computer, is in the car, and just you're like, I want to try FSD beta. So for 30 days the car's driving you around and you enjoy it and you're like, you can show it to your friends or whatever, but then after the 30 days it goes away and you're like, okay, that was fun. I don't even consider buying it outright as an option just because it's so insanely expensive. It's like, don't, no. I think Troy Tesla ran some data on it and he said it was like something like 10% of people who buy Teslas buy full self-driving, and the number drops every year. This year it's probably at an all-time low because it just gets more and more expensive, and there's more and more people buying Teslas that couldn't afford them before. We can't subscribe to FSD in Canada, though. We have to either buy the full package for 19,000 Canadian or do without. I wouldn't do it. Just telling you now. I honestly didn't even feel like the 1 month subscription was worth it. I I really only paid the $200 because I wanted to try FSD beta. And Elon said that they were going to roll it out to more people, and it turned out to be way harder to get into the beta program than I expected. So if I would have known that I wouldn't have been on the beta, I wouldn't have subscribed to it. I don't think it's worth the $200 a month. So I definitely don't think it's worth 19 grand. They'll probably roll out a subscription to Canada soon enough because there's got to be a insanely low number of people willing to spend that much. How does one know if we get picked for the beta? I went from a 40 to a 95. Been at it for a while now, and I stopped updating after I saw your vid. Yeah, I assume you get... I don't know if you get an email. I think you just wake up and the car says an update is ready. Even if you have 100 miles on autopilot in the last 30 days and safety score is greater than 80, you might still not get it. It's correct, because it depends on the version your car is on. And they don't tell you that. I had to learn that from a third party that reached out to me when I said, why don't I have the beta? Turns out that if you update your car to a newer version, which the car wants to be on, then that prevents you from being able to get the beta because the beta is built on an older software version. Why is it that way? I've been beta testing software on phones and computers for years, and that's never been the case. But no, I've never heard you have to have over 1,000 miles on autopilot. I don't think that's true. But the safety score ultimately is not that important anymore, because I've had a near perfect safety score for a month with the button pressed and I didn't get it because the car was on too new a version, which I wasn't supposed to do. So I have to wait until FSD beta catches up to my car's current version. And it takes forever. Plus, Tesla is not always actively adding people. So even if you do wait and they do roll out the new version, they're not necessarily adding people every time. That's the other problem. It's like you could add, all the stars could align and they could just say like, oh, we don't need new beta testers right now. So, ugh. Would you get a Yoke for your Model 3? They have third-party options. Well, we talked about that earlier. No, I mean, I would like it, but my wife wouldn't, and she drives the car too, so I wouldn't force that on her. Plus, I would feel a little bit nervous taking apart the car at this point. I'd probably feel a little bit more comfortable in the future when the warranty's expired. Right now, I'd be more worried about breaking something or voiding something, especially when the service visits I've had have not been great, so I don't have a lot of faith in the service center in my area, and I don't want the car to be stuck in some service location for any amount of time, really, because I'm not close to the service center. So right now I'm fine with the full steering wheel, but like if there was a way to ensure with no problems I could put a Yoke on my Model 3 for free, I'd probably do it. But yeah, it's not that big a deal. It'd be fun, but that's okay. I wouldn't spend money to get a Yoke on my Model 3. Let's put it that way. Okay, 10 more minutes, guys, and then the earnings call should begin. I hope you don't mind. I hope it doesn't get too loud. I'm going to turn on the air conditioner just because it's a little hot in here. So there might be a little bit of background noise. Um, I'll probably keep, yeah, fan speed a little bit low. Sorry if that's noisy. I just want to keep it a little cool in here so I'm not sweating like a pig the whole time. But, there you go. You want to see full screen sweaty Drew? Or should we go back to earnings call Drew? Can always put this here. Should be starting. I guess I might as well just have the screen up. Let's see. Operating expenses as percent of revenue now just at 7.9%. Used to be around 14%. That's crazy. I know, right? Tesla's doing great. I'm very happy to see that. Not really a surprise anymore, but Mark says, I may rest my hands on my head to prove I'm hands-free with it, but I never look to see if anyone notices because I'm not that thirsty. Autopilot's nice for the driver, but it's definitely not as impressive in my experience as Smart Summon. I get a lot of people surprised and going, whoa, that's cool. Like that, it drops draws when the car's driving with nobody in it. So if there was a way I could just buy Smart Summon, I totally would. At least I think I would. I don't know what they would price it at, but like, if it was, let's say, $1,000, you know, if I just dropped $1,000 and they gave me Summon, I'd be like, sweet, I'll take that, because I honestly want to use that all the time. It's just like I want to move the car out of the carport to wash it or something, or I want to move it back into the carport, or I want to adjust my distance in the parking space, and the fact that I don't have to get back into the car to move it is just, oh, Summon is so cool. I love Summon. My name isn't Joe, that's true. Miguel Soares says it's quite simple to get beta nowadays. You just have to have 100 miles on autopilot in the past 30 days and a safety score of 80. No, you will not. Don't say that, Miguel Soares. I did exactly what you said, and I did not get beta, even though I had 30 days with it. You have to ensure that your car is on a newer software version, which the public builds are not on the same builds as FSD beta. So if you're not on the right software version, and like the shareholder deck said, they have 160,000 people on the beta program right now, and they said the exact same thing at AI Day. So like nearly a month has gone by and they haven't added anybody. So even if you check all the boxes and you do everything right, you won't necessarily get added. And I'm living proof of that. I spent $200 just so I could get beta, and I didn't get it because I was on the wrong software version. But people decided to wait to tell me that you need to be on the older version until after I bought it, because people don't make it very, very clear. FSD is full sweaty Drew. That's right. They should confirm Snake Charger rollout during the Q3 call. They should, if it's true. Don't lie about it, but yeah. I still think the Snake Charger would be a great thing, even if robotaxis didn't exist. I just think it'd be a great convenience feature if the cars could plug themselves in and we didn't have to get out of the car. Imagine it's raining out. You just back into a supercharging stall and the cable plugs itself in. You don't have to get out. That would be awesome. When do you think actually Smart Summon is coming? The version that uses the occupancy network. Elon said almost done, but who knows what that means. Might as well be a shot in the dark. He says it's almost done, so we'll probably get it in Q2 of next year. Probably around May. Because in Elon's mind, something that he's also said that full self-driving is almost done for like the past 3 years. Was robotaxis and others in development also last quarter? Let me check on that. I think it was. Let me see. I can't find. I think it did say robotaxis. So this is last quarter's shareholder deck. Yeah, robotaxi and others. So that's not. I assume the others is bot, for the record. I don't think there's something else. I don't understand what the point of this section is. We have yet to determine what other vehicles will be built in or at what stat. It's like, just, if you don't have anything, just, like, why do you need any of these things here if there's nothing to say? In development. Yeah, this is when the Semi and the Cybertruck were both in development. Thankfully, it's not that anymore. Let's see. How is the sound system in your Model 3 comparable with premium sound brands like Bose? I never see reviewers talk about it. I haven't listened to like a Bose car-made sound system, but all I can say is I really like it. I was driving home from a friend's house kind of late last night, or the night before, and and I was all alone in the car, just driving on a windy road back home, and it was all dark, and I was just like, I'm gonna get real into the Mad Max soundtrack because that's what they unveiled the Cybertruck with, was Brothers in Arms. Really great song, and I just blasted it. I just turned the volume up really, really high, and just there's no distortion. The mids felt very clear, the highs felt very clear, and it got this really, really rich thumping bass. And I have the partial premium interior, so if you get any other Tesla than this one, you'll get a premium interior, which I have listened to the premium interior in Teslas. They sound a little bit better. I wouldn't describe it as night and day. The best way I could describe it, I'm not an audiophile, but the best way I could describe it is when you're in the partial premium interior Model 3 and blasting music, the sound feels like it's coming from in front of you and behind you. And when you're in the premium interior, you hear more of it coming from the left and right. It's like it's coming from in front of you, the sides, and behind you. So that's why Tesla calls it immersive audio. My car doesn't have the immersive audio, but it is by no means, in my opinion, it is not a bad sound system at all. It still sounds fantastic. So I wouldn't say that the sound system is a reason to opt for the long range. I really think they're both fine. One is a little bit better than the other, but I mean, I wouldn't pay $20 to activate those. There's speaker holes in the side of the car that are deactivated, or there's nothing behind them on the rear-wheel drive, but on the long range, there's actually speakers in them. It's a little bit better, but I don't think you would notice if this is your first Tesla. I'm ultra premium interior. You feel the music come from inside. There's speakers under the seat. That's right. Also wondering how the sound system is and if it can be upgraded. I don't believe it can be upgraded. Can you connect your iPhone to the USB port in the glove box and stream music through it? I don't think you can send data through that port, but from your phone at least. But you can connect via Bluetooth. That's what I do. Bluetooth works fine. I'd rather do that than fuss around with the cable. There's a wireless charger. You just drop your phone on there. Lars has any plans to trade in your Model 3 for a Model Y in a few years? At this point, no. As far as I can tell, we'll be owning this Model 3 until it stops working, which could be decades. But we frankly don't even max out the storage space of the Model 3 all that much. We rarely use the trunk because the frunk is so much more fun. I love loading stuff into the front of the car, especially because for our charger layout at home, we have to back in to the garage so that the back end of the car is closer to the charge port. We've tried pulling in front ways, and you just have to stretch out the charge cable a lot further, and the cable's just more messy that way. So because whenever we walk out to the car, we come up to the front of it first, the frunk is more easy to access. So we tend to put most stuff that we're moving around in the frunk, and only occasionally, like when we're getting lots of groceries, which is like once a week. I would say on average I use my trunk once a week. So the main reason we'd want a Model Y is the higher ride height at this point, but we're not willing to spend that much money on one. So essentially, I won't say never, but in order for us to consider getting a Model Y, the prices will need to come down drastically, which I think they will in time. As Giga Texas ramps and Fremont hopefully can ramp a bit more too, I think eventually we'll get to the point where Model Y could start around 50,000 or so, which is what I'd hope. And maybe we'd consider trading in if it was a smaller price gap, but honestly, it'd be kind of nice, but I like this car. There's nothing really wrong with this car. I don't know if at this point, because we know how comfortably we can live with the Model 3, I don't know if I would spend an extra $3,000. If you came to me now and were like, Drew, I'll give you a Model Y if I can get your Model 3 and you just pay me $3,000, then you can have a Model Y. I'd be like, I don't know. At this point, like, the Tesla's very, very similar interior on the inside. The real pressing question, where do you get groceries? We go to a few different places. Cheap places. We like Food Max. We like Winco. We like Costco. We don't have to pay for our Costco membership because we use a friend's, which is kind of smart. So we like Costco though. Let's see. Do you expect any mention of Cybertruck in this call? Yes. The top voted question. I better get ready here. The top voted question on the page. What's it called? There's a page where you vote for what questions you want answered on the earnings call. It should be starting here pretty quick. Let me open this up. Still music playing for now. Once the event officially starts, I'll turn up the volume and I won't talk so much. But portable solar Tesla charging videos, I have seen those. Yeah, none of them are super convincing yet, but I'd love to get into that because I love the concept of supplemental solar charging. Still music. Tesla spent a lot purchases of marketable securities. This question, what could that be? I don't know what that means. Marketable securities. Does that mean Twitter? I'm hearing the Apple Car audio is really good. Yeah, I mean, if it existed, it would probably be great. Why is Elon so against CarPlay? Elon has something against Apple, I guess, probably because Tim Cook never would take a meeting with him. And Apple a long time ago tried to buy Tesla, and their one condition was that Elon had to be fired. So he probably just has a lot of ill will towards Apple. Plus, Apple's poached a lot of his employees. A lot of people have left Tesla to go work at Apple. No, I've never ordered a Cybertruck. Some people are convinced I have because I've made so many Cybertruck videos, but seriously, I've never never ordered a Cybertruck. As exciting as it is, and I think it's one of the coolest looking vehicles of all time, and I'm pumped for any and all news and updates on the Cybertruck, it isn't for me. It doesn't really fit in my lifestyle. Like I said, I use the trunk of my sedan once a week, so I can barely justify a crossover. Definitely can't justify a pickup truck, and I also know the Cybertruck's going to be super expensive, so yeah, like even if I wanted it, I probably couldn't afford it. I don't think it'll be close to my price points. Yeah, hopefully one day. Is regular maintenance like putting air in your tires the same for a Tesla where it's low? I can go to my local Sheets and fill it up, or do you have to go to a service shop for every little thing? I don't think, no, you don't need to go to a service shop to put air in the tires, but you might have to be a bit careful with tire rotation because Teslas need to be jacked up a little bit differently than typical cars do. Yeah, you can put air in your tires at home. You don't have to go anywhere. Basic things like that, but Teslas are heavy, so you tend to need to service tires more frequently, so the tire rotation, that might be harder to do at home than a typical car, because typical cars is pretty easy to just know where to jack it up, but Teslas are extra heavy, so you might want to rely on Tesla service to rotate tires, but make sure you switch over to winter air. Oh, it's starting.
My name is Martin Vieca, VP of Investor Relations, and I'm joined today by Elon Musk, Zachary Kirkhorn, and a number of other executives.
Here we go.
Our Q3 results were announced at about 3 p.m. Central Time in the update deck we published at the same link as this webcast. During the call, we will discuss our business outlook and make forward-looking statements. These comments are based on our predictions and expectations as of today. Actual events or results could differ materially due to a number of risks and uncertainties, including those mentioned in our most recent filings with the SEC. During the Q&A session portion of today's call, please limit yourself to one question and one follow-up. Please use the raise hand button to join the question queue. But before we jump into Q&A, Elon has some opening remarks. Elon?
Thank you, Martin. So just to do a Q3 recap, Q3 was another record quarter on many levels. We had our industry-leading operating margin reach 17%, and our free cash flow surpassed $3 billion in Q3 and approached $9 billion in the past 12 months.
Woo!
As our factories ramp, we're looking forward to a record-breaking Q4. So it really, knock on wood, it looks like we'll have an epic end of year.
Epic.
So Q4 is looking extremely good. On the production ramp, Giga Berlin achieved another milestone of 2,000 cars made in a week, with very good quality, and is ramping rapidly. Giga Austin or Giga Texas should reach this milestone very soon. In fact, just yesterday, if you extrapolated yesterday's build rate, it would be 2,000.
You can tell that wasn't in the
Our
script.
production of 4680 cells has tripled in Q3 compared to the previous quarter. We are finally gaining rapid traction on the 4680 cell, and its output is growing rapidly, and we expect it to start incorporating in cars and having it be a significant portion of our production here in Texas in the coming months.
Oh, months.
Uh,
Which car?
We also have our second generation of manufacturing equipment for 4680 cells in Texas, which continues to show great progress along with our original pilot line in Fremont. The Fremont factory team once again reached record production in Q3, and we intend to keep raising production in Fremont. Regarding Autopilot, at the end of September, we hosted our second AI Day and showed the first prototype of our Optimus robot, the latest updates on our Dojo training computer, and a wide range of improvements of full self-driving software. Our vehicles have now driven nearly 60 miles in full self-driving beta mode, and this number continues to grow exponentially. Our goal with that AI Day was recruiting, and we've seen a massive influx of world-class artificial intelligence engineer and scientist resumes. So it generated a tremendous amount of interest from some of the best AI researchers in the world. I can't emphasize the importance of this enough. Because I think it finally has become clear to the smartest AI technologists in the world that Tesla is among the very best. So
that's good. Okay. Get your applicants.
And this quarter, we expect to go to a wide release of full self-driving beta in North America. So anyone who has ordered full self-driving beta or full self-driving will have access to the FSD beta program this year, probably about a month from now. So, and then obviously anyone who buys a car and purchases a full self-driving option will immediately have that available to them. So the safety that we're seeing when the car is in FSD mode is actually significantly greater than the safety we're seeing when it is not, which is a key threshold for going to a wide beta. Let's see, with respect to demand, we've got a lot of questions about demand in recent weeks. I can't emphasize enough, we have excellent demand for Q4, and we expect to sell every car that we make for as far into the future as we can see. So the factories are running at full speed, and we're delivering every car we make and keeping operating margins strong.
It's like 29%.
We're still a very small percentage of the total vehicles on the road. Of the 2 billion cars and trucks on the road, we only have about 3.5 million. So we've got a long way to go to even reach 1% of the global fleet. Let's see, based on my based on many things, but certainly questions I get on Twitter about buybacks, and I think every one of our board members has gotten questions about buybacks. We've debated the buyback idea extensively at the board level. The board generally thinks that it makes sense to do a buyback, but we want to work through the right process to do a buyback. But it is certainly possible for us to do a buyback on the order of $5 to $10 billion, even in the downside scenario of next year. Even if next year is a very difficult year, we still have the ability to do a $5 to $10 billion buyback. This is obviously pending board review and approval.
I didn't think they would do that. Wow.
It's likely that we'll do some meaningful buyback. So in conclusion, while the market themes revolve around the short term, it's very important to focus on the long term. I can't emphasize this enough with investors, and I think long-time investors obviously recognize this with Tesla. you have your sort of local ups and downs, but long-term trend has been extremely good. And several years ago, I said, I think on an earnings call, that I thought it was possible for Tesla to be worth more than Apple, which was then the highest market cap company, I think, on the market. And Apple at the time, I think, was around $700 billion. And I said it required incredible execution, at least some luck, and we didn't indeed achieve that. Tesla went, in fact, far past Apple's market cap at the time. And now I'm of the opinion that we can far exceed Apple's current market cap. In fact, I see a potential path for Tesla to be worth more than Apple and Saudi Aramco combined.
We will beat Apple.
So
suck it, Apple.
Now that doesn't mean it will happen.
Yes, it does. I think they will.
Or that will be easy. In fact, I think it will be very difficult. It will require a lot of work, some very creative new products, tremendous expansion, and always some luck. But for the first time, I am seeing, I see a way for Tesla to be, let's say, roughly twice the value of Saudi Aramco. And I think that's, I haven't quite seen that yet. I mean, this is the first time I've seen that potential. So
this is the biggest, most obvious stock pump I've ever heard.
I mean, we have an incredible product portfolio. I think we've got
it's going to be so
the most exciting product portfolio of any company on earth.
Buy the stock.
Some of which you've heard about, some of which you haven't.
Buy the stock. Buy it. Buy it. No.
We're in the final lap for Cybertruck. We're building the Cybertruck line here at Giga Texas, Austin.
Yes.
And making a lot of progress in the robotaxi platform design.
Don't talk about the robot. Just
and
back to the truck.
Oh, and then with respect to batteries, we're moving as fast as possible to have to achieve 1,000 gigawatt hours a year of production capacity in the United States.
Terawatt hour.
Vertically integrated. So anode, cathode, lithium refining. We're moving at a top speed to do that.
Yeah, they're building this Cybertruck line.
I think it's an incredibly exciting future, and really an unprecedented future. But none of this would be possible without the incredible team that we have here at Tesla. So I'd like to give a huge shout out to all of our factory employees, engineers, executives, and the whole Tesla team. You guys rock. You're the ones making it happen. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
That's not all the news.
Thank you very much.
Answered
and Zach
questions
has some
yet.
opening remarks as well.
Yeah, thanks, Martin. Just to continue on Elon's theme, I just want to thank and congratulate the Tesla team for achieving record vehicle deliveries, production, and storage deployments in the third quarter. On automotive profitability, our GAAP operating margin was 17.2%, with automotive gross margin at 27.9%. Operating margin is one of our best yet, with improvements in operating leverage. However, Austin and Berlin ramp costs weighed on our margins, particularly if you compare it to Q1. Removing regulatory credits and Austin and Berlin, our operating margins would have been our strongest yet, and auto gross margin would have been nearly 30%. Note that while small and growing, each car we build in Austin and Berlin is contributing positively to profitability. We also continue to experience margin headwinds associated with macroeconomic conditions, as we've discussed at length on prior calls. In particular, raw materials, logistics, and foreign exchange was a big part of this past quarter. On energy profitability, we achieved our strongest gross profit yet for this business, driven primarily by record volumes of our Megapack and Firewall products. Our free cash flows were also a record, despite an increase in cars in transit at the end of the quarter, which has a negative impact on working capital. Specifically on cars in transit, as noted in our press release on October 2nd, we've started to experience limits on outbound logistics capacity, which we didn't anticipate. This issue is particularly present for ships from Shanghai to Europe and local trucking within certain parts of the US and Europe. Our historical operating pattern of batch building by delivery region leads to extreme concentrations of outbound logistics needs in the final weeks of each quarter. Just to put this in perspective, roughly 2/3 of our Q3 deliveries occurred in September and 1/3 in the final 2 weeks.
Whoa.
As a result, we've begun to smooth
Whoa.
regional builds throughout the quarter to reduce our peak needs for outbound logistics.
1/3 in the last.
We expect this to simplify our operations, reduce costs, and improve the experience of our customers. As we look ahead, our plans show that we're on track for the 50% annual growth in production this year, although we are tracking supply chain risks which are beyond our control. On the delivery side, we do expect to be just under 50% growth due to an increase in the cars in transit at the end of the year, as noted just above. This means that, again, you should expect a gap between production and deliveries in Q4, and those cars in transit will be delivered shortly to their customers upon arrival to their destination in Q1. Austin and Berlin ramp costs will continue to weigh on margins, although we expect the impact to be less than what we saw in Q3. And as Elon mentioned, we are continuing to build as many cars as possible while also maintaining strong operating margins. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And let's go first through the shareholder questions.
Here we go.
The first shareholder question is, given the stringent battery content and assembly requirements for consumer tax credit eligibility under the Inflation Reduction Act,
Tax credit.
can you speak to Tesla's ability to meet those thresholds in each of 2023, 2024, and 2025 with your existing and planned supply chain?
Not important, in my opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I think just at a high level, I'd say we do expect to fully meet the IRA's requirements.
Okay.
Yeah, we view the passing of the Inflation Reduction Act as a significant boost towards accelerating our mission, while also scaling the battery supply chain at large in the United States. We expect Treasury to publish detailed guidance by the end of the year. Until such time, it's difficult to fully determine the eligibility criteria, but we believe Tesla is very well positioned to capture a significant share of that for solar storage and also electric vehicles.
Yeah, like I said earlier, we're going to go basically pedal to the metal as fast as humanly possible to get to 1,000 gigawatt hours a year of production in the U.S. Vertically integrated.
Yeah, they already answered that, basically.
Thank you. Let's go to the next question. The next question is, what updates can you offer on the backlog and recent order intake trends, especially outside of the US and especially in China?
Just say China. Don't say especially twice.
Well, it's
Oh, did we stump him?
there's definitely, China is experiencing a burst of a recession of sorts, which is property market, seems to be driven by property market mostly. And Europe has a recession of sorts driven by energy. The US actually is in pretty, North America is in pretty good health. Although the Fed is raising interest rates more than they should, but I think they'll eventually realize that and bring it back down again. So, demand is a little harder than it would otherwise be, but as I said earlier, we are extremely confident of a great Q4, and we anticipate continuing to grow our vehicle production, sales, and deliveries by, on average, 50% a year, as far into the future as we can see.
Thank you.
Actually, one caveat I should say, growing production by 50% every year, because deliveries, we're trying to smooth out the deliveries and not have this crazy delivery wave at the end of every quarter. So, in fact, we were just fundamentally running out of, there weren't enough boats, there weren't enough trains, there weren't enough car carriers to actually support the wave. Tesla got too big. So whether we like it or not, we actually have to smooth out the delivery of cars intra-quarter because there just aren't enough transportation objects to move them around.
That's interesting.
Thank you.
Not enough
The
trucks.
next question is, do you still expect 50% annualized growth for the foreseeable future? Is this also true specifically for the Chinese domestic market? Do you expect to need to cut vehicle prices or offer incentives in any market to sustain the demand? Or has demand remained stable, or is it even rising?
It's like
I've got a
five.
few questions there.
Well, like I said, we want to sort of focus on, at a high level on what we think is possible here. To the best of our knowledge, we believe that Tesla will continue to grow deliveries and revenue production at a 50% or greater compound annual growth rate. There might occasionally be a year that is a little less, and then some years will be maybe a little more or a lot more. In some of our out-year planning, we see potential annual growth rates that are in excess of 50%.
Thank you. The next question is, can you tell us more about the product feature roadmap beyond new models and FSD, and especially for interior and powertrain of existing vehicle models?
No. we could, but we won't. Sorry, guys. We can't like jump the gun on future product announcement.
No.
Committed to continuous improvement.
Yeah, we obviously are continuing. Yeah. There's obviously Tesla's
Great answer, though. I love that answer. No.
We'll also be committed to continuous improvement. Yeah, at Tesla, we've always been committed to continuous improvement. So, as friends of mine ask me, like, when should I buy a car? I'm like, now, because we just keep improving the cars. It's always the latest Tesla. Yeah, best Tesla, the latest Tesla. So,
I don't know about
and I
that.
really, yeah, the new, you know, every now and again, we do have some, you know, big technology upgrade like Plaid. And by the way, I think the Plaid Model S and X are just the best cars on earth. Best. There's nothing even close, in my opinion. Just try one. Yeah. Epic.
Epic.
Thank
You
you.
won't let me test drive it.
The next question is, we keep hearing of dire energy crisis in Germany this winter. What are Tesla's plans to combat power cuts? And will there be any delays in ramp up in production from Giga Berlin because of this?
Yeah, I can take it.
No.
I think 2 points on this question. The first is that, based upon everything that we know, we don't see this as a large risk to the company. Even if production did go down for a period of time, this is all near term. It doesn't have any impact on the long term of the company.
But we have no indication whatsoever
None.
that we will have to cut our production in Germany.
No. And we put in place backup plans, and we're working through the supply chain as well. Nearly all of our suppliers are prepared as well. So we'll see how this plays out, but it's not something that we're terribly worried about.
Thank you.
I would have just
And the
been
next
like,
question is,
no.
how is production planning going for the Cybertruck? What is the initial phase 1 production target? When can we expect an update on pricing and final design?
Mm.
Yeah, I mean, as Elon said earlier, we've begun facilities preparations here in Giga, Texas for Cybertruck. We're still on track to enter early production in the middle of next year. We started our beta builds of all of the battery and existing.
When can I drive my beta? That's the question
in a few weeks.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And that's going well. We continue ramping that through the end of next year and into 2023.
Great. Yeah, that car's gonna be sick, man. Sick. That's gonna be a Hall of Famer, next level. Sorry, it took it longer than expected, but there were a few things that got in the way, like insane global supply chain shortages and pandemics. Yeah, sure. Force majeure if there ever was one.
When we gonna
Right,
get
thank you.
specs?
Of course, Tesla Semi, of course. So we'll be handing over our first production Tesla semis to Pepsi on December 1st. I'll be there in person, and we'll be began ramping up production of the Tesla Semi, which is a max load heavy truck.
Yeah, that's the Class 8 truck.
Class 8 truck.
No sacrifice to cargo capacity.
Yeah, no sacrifice. Exactly. Very important. No sacrifice to cargo capacity.
Wow.
500-mile range.
Just be clear, right? 500 miles with the cargo.
Yeah, 500 miles with the cargo on level ground. Yeah, fair. You know, it's not up. You know, cliff. But the point is, it's a long range truck, and even with heavy cargo. And the number of times people told me, "Oh, you can't. It's impossible to make a long range, heavy duty Class 8 truck." And then I asked, well, what are your assumptions about watt-hour kilogram and watt-hours per mile? And they would look at me with a blank stare and then say hydrogen. I'm like, no, that's not the answer. But I was looking for numbers. Literally.
Hydrogen.
That's not a number. It's an element on the periodic table. Anyway, you obviously don't need hydrogen for heavy trucking. That's what we're trying to make here.
Wow.
And we'll be ramping up semi-production through next year. As you know, I think everyone knows at this point, it takes about a year to ramp up production. So we expect to see significant. We're tentatively aiming for 50,000 units in 2024 for Tesla Semi in North America.
Whoa!
And obviously we'll expand beyond North America.
50,000.
And these would sell. I don't want to say what exact prices, but they're much more than a passenger vehicle. So the 50,000 heavy trucks of this nature would be worth several Model Ys.
50,000.
Thank you.
Dang.
The next question is, what is the progress of the 4680 cell ramp, and what factors determine whether vehicles get 2170s versus 4680 cells, and how will that change in the next year?
Yeah, ramp is going well. As Elon said, total output is up 3x quarter over quarter, and production is tracking to exceed 1,000 car sets per week this quarter, as we said last quarter. Our focus is now shifting from 100% ramp to cost and further expanding production capacity in North America, as Elon also mentioned. On the 2170 versus 4680, in our factories, we really attempt to minimize factory complexity and product changeover, while still making sure we get enough new product into the field to learn how it is performing. And that sort of mix is going to shift as 4680 scales here and the overall factory ramp proceeds in Texas.
Right. But basically, in a nutshell, 4680 ramp is growing exponentially. And yeah, it's going well. It's looking good. This
Yeah.
is going to be a very major factor in the future.
There are a lot of packs up sick.
Yes. Like I said, our goal is to strive towards 1,000 gigawatt hours a year of annualized production in the United States alone by Tesla, not including suppliers. Suppliers would be on top of that.
We need to get 300 to 400 terawatt hours built to accomplish our goal.
Yeah, there's roughly, to transition Earth to sustainable energy, our rough calculation for both stationary and vehicles
300 terawatt
is 300 to 400,000 gigawatt hours, or 3 to 400 terawatt hours.
That's insane. Oh my God.
So when you're like 1 terawatt sounds like a lot, well, it's a lot of terawatt hours to go.
Yeah, and I should say, on the cathode side, the main cathode we think would probably be iron.
Woo!
And most of the iron, because iron can scale to very, very high tonnage, and then some nickel. The exact percentages are hard to figure out, but it's probably at least twice as much iron cathode as nickel, maybe more, and then there's the manganese wild card as well.
Iron, baby.
All right, future.
That's it.
Yep.
That's the future.
And on that note, we're pursuing aggressively North American iron cathode supply.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, we can talk more about that at a future date.
Should be doing that now.
All right, thank you. The next question is on the semi-truck, which we already addressed, so I'm going to skip to the next one. Can you talk about how Tesla could adjust if we were to enter a prolonged recession, including new product prioritization, investment flexibility, new factory versus factory expansion, service support infrastructure, productivity cost measures, and demand stimulation alternatives?
Well, to be frank, we're going pedal to the metal, come rain or shine. So we are not reducing our production in any meaningful way, recession or not recession. So
It's the 1% point you made.
yeah, exactly. So I think the public at large realizes that the world's moving towards electric vehicles, and that it's foolish to actually buy a new gasoline car at this point, because the residual value of that gasoline car is going to be very low. So, so I think we're having to be in a very good spot. I wouldn't say it's recession-proof, but it's certainly recession resilient. Because basically the Earth has, the people of Earth have, in large part, made the decision to move away from gasoline cars to electric cars. And then we're in transitioning electricity generation to sustainable. You need solar and wind with a stationary battery pack to buffer the power. So you have 24/7 power, because the wind doesn't blow all the time and the sun doesn't shine all the time. So that also is, we actually see the energy storage business, stationary storage, growing more like, I don't know, 150 to 200% a year. So faster than cars by a lot.
And sorry, just to add, before you jump in, Martin, I mean, just to echo Elon's point, I mean, I think, where our cash balance is, what our forecasted cash generation is, where our margins are as a company, I mean, we can withstand quite a lot of downside before we would have to dig into our capital plans, supercharger expansion, product lineup. So, the business has done quite well over the last handful of quarters. And this is a real opportunity, I think, for the company to press forward in the most aggressive way, as Elon is mentioning.
Yeah, I mean, we try to model out, like, let's say 2023 is a brutal recession year. Even then, we generate meaningful cash. Once you get out of that 2024 plus, it's insane.
Tesla was in a much worse place
Thank you very
during the
much.
last
And let's go to
recession.
the last investor question, which is
They did great.
the progression from Tesla's first platform with S and X to the second platform with 3 and Y led to 50% reduction in cost of goods sold. What do you see Tesla's third platform being released, and what level of cost of goods sold reduction could you achieve?
What kind of question? Robotaxi.
Well, we don't talk exact dates, but this is the primary focus of our new vehicle development team, obviously. But we're at this point, we've done the engineering for Cybertruck and for Semi, and so you can obviously guess what we're working on, which is the next generation vehicle, which will be probably about half the cost of the 3Y platform. It'll be smaller, to be fair, but it will, I think, swiftly exceed the production of all our other vehicles combined.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, we're going to take everything we learned from SX, 3Y, Cybertruck, and Semi and pour it into that platform. But we, as you've said to us many times, we're on a 2-for-1 target. So,
yeah,
that implies that trying to get to that 50% number again.
Yeah, that's exactly. It's like what would it take to. That's exactly what Lance strikes is what we're trying to figure out. How do we make 2 cars for the amount of effort that it currently takes us to make one Model 3?
Yeah, effort, costs,
Yeah,
efficiency, all those things. Half the loss, half the cost, half the factory floor space.
We're twice the output.
Twice the
And we do
pride,
believe
double the
this can
fool.
be done. Yeah. By the way, I should mention that when I said that probably that I see a path, again, extreme, very difficult path, incredible execution required, massive amount of hard work and some luck to get to where Tesla is worth as much as Apple and Saudi Aramco combined. I wasn't including Optimus.
Oh, he did it. He said it. Without the bot.
Thank you.
We're going to be huge.
Let's go to analyst questions next. The first question comes from Adam Jonas from Morgan Stanley. Adam, go ahead and unmute.
Great. Can you hear me?
No.
Yep.
Yeah.
So Elon, would you consider vertically integrating into mining? That's my first question.
We'll do whatever we have to. Whatever the limiting factor is, we'll do. We do not artificially constrain ourselves. We don't vertically integrate just for the hell of vertically integrating. Like if there's a great supplier who's better than us, or we think at least very good, or even where the economics of comparative advantage suggests that we should use that supplier, even if we could beat them, but we could use our resources to do something else that would be more productive, then we won't insource in that case. But if we have to go mine, we will mine.
Okay, thanks, Elon. My follow-up is, 1 terawatt hour of manufacturing in the United States, vertically integrated. I guess my question is, what would need to change with U.S. permitting laws to allow that? Kind of what would be your message to this administration or next? And do you think you could do a terawatt hour? What's the going price of that? Can you do that for under $100 billion in the States? Thanks.
Well, I think that the message to the government would be that there should be, I should say we've actually had conversations with a number of senior government leaders, White House, Congress, and whatnot. And the suggestion that we have is that there should be an expedited permitting process for anything which is critical to a sustainable energy future. So it doesn't make sense to put like a coal mine and a sustainable energy battery like lithium mine in the same category. Coal does not have a future, lithium does. And by the way, you can extract lithium with almost no disturbance to the local environment. So it's not like some ugly, nasty mine situation. So I would recommend expedited permitting would really be helpful. Basically, yeah, fast track environmentally. I think besides fast track things that are important for the environment and humanity's future on Earth. That seems logical. And the reception has been positive, so we'll see if something happens with that. I think probably on this earnings call, we're not ready to get into financial details of what it would take to get there, but what we are seeing is radical improvements as we redesign the whole supply chain and all of the elements that go into battery cell. We're figuring out dramatic efficiencies that I think will the net result of which would be that the capital required to achieve that level of output will be much less than what people think.
Thank you very much. Let's go to the next question from Colin Langan from Wells Fargo. Colin, go ahead and unmute.
Okay, next question.
Colin, can you click unmute?
Oh, you hear me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, sorry about that. Any update on full self-driving? I think you had said a couple quarters ago it would be available by the end of the year. Is that still possible? Would it still be like a level 4 or level 5 that you're talking about? And are there any sort of regulatory hurdles you'd have to think about?
Did you not listen to the whole call?
We,
Just
as I said earlier, we're expecting to release the full self-driving software to anyone who orders the package by the end of this year.
It's not level 4 though.
It's a separate matter as to will it have regulatory approval. It won't have regulatory approval at that time, but
It'll be illegal.
but the car will be able to take you from your home to your work, your friend's house, to the grocery store,
What about my grandma's house, Elon?
without you touching the wheel. So it's looking very good.
What a terrible question.
And it would mean like level 4, level 5 kind of traditional definition you're talking about.
Oh my God, this guy cannot listen.
There's a debate as like what are the interventions per mile and all those, maybe the safety interventions per mile. Like we're not saying that that's quite ready to have no one behind the wheel. It's just that you will almost never have to touch the vehicle controls.
No, you do have to right now.
So like when I came to Giga Texas today from friend's house, I never touched any of the controls all the way here. And then there is a longer process of like what's called the March of Nines, of like how many nines for reliability do you need before you could really be comfortable saying that the car could drive with no one in it. There's some subjectivity as to how many nines you need, but I think we'll be pretty close to having enough nines that you can have no one in the car by the end of this year, and certainly without question whatsoever in my mind, next year.
There's a question in my
mind. We'll have an updated next year to be able to show to regulators that the car is safer, much safer than the average human.
Got it. And just as a follow-up, you mentioned in the prior questions about IRA. I mean, it sounded like you thought you could get. Can you get all of it? I mean, because my interpretation is like the production credits, battery component credits for buyers seems very likely for you guys. Is the sourcing part of it possible? Because that seems like a pretty tough hurdle given how much has to be sourced from the U.S.
Yeah. So we have a cross-functional team that's looking very closely at it. As you mentioned, the sourcing threshold increases by the year. So we're looking at all options and also getting some clarification from Treasury. It's important to say that's only a fraction of the other credits. We do manufacture ourselves in the U.S. We manufacture the modules in the U.S. So that's pretty free and clear. So yes, we feel confident that we'll have a path as these incentives, as the threshold sort of increases by the year.
Yeah, we'll meet those thresholds.
Please get him off. I don't want to hear
Thank
him.
you. The next question comes
Thank
from
you.
Colin Rush from Oppenheimer. Colin, please go ahead and unmute yourself.
Thanks so much, guys. You know, the operating leverage has been pretty impressive here, and I'm curious about areas where you could, you know, invest in an incremental way, whether it's on the R&D side or on the sales side to accelerate growth or cost reduction, or should we be thinking about this level of spend on a go-forward basis and some significant operating leverage as you scale up from here?
Yeah, I mean, our operating leverage has improved quite a bit. It's the lowest this quarter, I think, ever, and by a decent amount. Our OPEX as a percentage of revenue. I mean, our forecast is that it will keep reducing. I mean, I think the way to think about it is, you know, our total amount of operating expenses will slowly tick up as the company grows. It's very hard to keep it flat with the rapid growth of the company, but it's growing much slower. So some amount of growth there, but the top line of the business is growing so quickly. So I think there continues to be enormous opportunity to improve the overhead efficiency of the business, and we're seeing it.
Yeah.
All right, great, guys. I'll take the rest of that offline.
We are in the, at least for now, quite good position of we're investing in everything we can think of to possibly invest in, and we're still generating cash. So I guess it's a pretty good place to be.
Yeah, I mean, how many R&D programs are we running in parallel right now?
People don't even know all the R&D stuff we're doing. Some they know some of it, but a bunch of it they don't.
I also don't think cash is a good gauge of how much R&D you're.
No, it isn't, because it's like this. Like it's not like it's not like engineers are they're not generic. And so it's just like, oh, if you spend, 5 billion or 10 billion, that will that your actual R&D in terms of useful product ship will be proportional to that. It's just not true. Engineers aren't coming off some assembly line like cookies or something.
Until we get Optimus coming.
Yeah, Optimus don't change things. What matters is where are the most brilliant people working, and Tesla remains Tesla and SpaceX are two companies where the smartest engineers want to work.
I mean, we don't have to spend billions of dollars to invest in the future and invent the future. Engineers are also cost conscious, and we don't necessarily just burn money out the window when we're trying to do R&D. So I would stop looking at R&D as a cash investment for how much we do.
Like one nickel at Tesla is frankly worth an infinite number of dollars of engineers. Well, you can have almost an infinite number of good engineers. And they would not be able to do what one nickel at Tesla could do. You can't make it up in volume.
Okay, thank you very much. Let's go to the next question from George at Canaccord. George,
hi, good afternoon, and thanks for taking my question. I think it was at your annual shareholders event where Elon mentioned that the prices of many of the materials used in your production have started to come off the boil. If that continues, does that give you an opportunity to adjust prices globally after several increases? Thanks.
Are they getting cheaper?
Well, we're looking at the prices at our prices closely. I mean, obviously, anyone can just Google what the price of, the future price of copper or steel's going to be. It's just like one Google search away. And everyone can see that the commodities on a go-forward basis are on a dropping line. But in electric vehicles, things like battery-grade lithium are still crazy expensive. So we've got a mixture of things where prices are dropping and things where prices are increasing.
Yeah, I mean,
I would say quarter-over-quarter, steel, aluminum has dropped anywhere between 17 to 20%. At the same time, on the battery side,
the cost of shipping has come down tremendously.
Yeah.
Like last year, the cost of a container on the spot market from Shanghai got as high as $20,000.
Wow.
And now it's $3,600. It's come back to reality.
Yeah.
We're seeing deflation on a lot of commodities, with a few exceptions, as you mentioned, on batteries.
There's more deflation than inflation.
Definitely.
And again, this is publicly available information. Anyone could just Google it. And I think Kathy Wood at ARK Invest is trying to make this point over and over again to the Fed, and the Fed is not listening because they're looking out the rearview mirror instead of looking out the front windshield.
Yeah, just to add a little bit more context. So, commodity increases were the highest in Q3 that we've seen over the last 2 years. And so, when indexes change, it does take time before they flow through our financials. Yeah, there's latency.
This is why I say the Fed's decisions make sense if you're looking out through the rearview mirror, but not if you look out the front windshield. And they should look out the front windshield.
Yeah, and so at least of what we know so far, so peak on the commodity side in Q3, I say peak, hopefully it stays the peak. Hopefully it starts to come down. That there is a small amount of reduction that we're seeing going into our Q4 cost structure, from steel and aluminum primarily. But it's less than 10% of the total increases we've seen so far. So, we're optimistic here based upon what we're seeing on the indexes for some of our cost structure, that this will start to come in over time. But I just want to set expectations that there's not some windfall of cost reduction in this space coming in Q4. Maybe some as we go into next year.
Yeah, I think we'll probably see some cost reduction in 2023. I'd be surprised if we did not.
Elon's
And
been
just as a
surprised.
follow-up, this is for Elon. With your pending acquisition of Twitter and your stakes in in SpaceX and Neuralink and Tesla, how much would the combined companies benefit from operating under a single superstructure, if at all, just similar to Google or Alphabet?
No.
It's not clear to me what the overlap is. It's not zero, but I think we're reaching. I'm not Warren Buffett. I'm not an investor. I am an engineer and manufacturing person, and a technologist. So, I actually work and design and develop products. That's what I do. So, it's not we're not going to have a sort of portfolio of investments or whatever. So I don't know. I don't see an obvious sort of where they could get combined under an umbrella, at least right now. I'm excited about the Twitter situation because obviously I know that part incredibly well, and I think it's an asset that has been sort of languished for a long time, but has incredible potential. Although obviously myself and the other investors are obviously overpaying for Twitter right now, the long-term potential for Twitter, in my view, is an order of magnitude greater than its current value.
Okay.
Thank you. Let's go to the next question from Pierre Ferragut from New Street Research.
Please
Pierre, go ahead, please, and unmute.
Doesn't unmute.
Yes,
Yeah.
Can you hear me, guys?
Sorry. We can hear now.
Great. I'd love to have another update on 4680, Drew. And so last time we talked about it, it was questioned about scaling out manufacturing, and there were still a few things to get right. Is it fair to say that now you are at scale and it's just a question of logistics to get bigger? So that's question number one. And then question number two, on the kind of innovation and cost reduction and efficiency improvements kind of path that you described at the Battery Day, where are we today, and how much time is it going to take to deliver all the potential you outlined then?
Well, I'll take the second question first. At Battery Day, we showed a timeline out to 2026 for all of the ideas we had proposed and had, shared with everybody then. And
yeah, I'd be surprised. I think we'll do better than that.
Yeah, I mean, but just that's the rough. Just give you all, it's on that order. It's not like a month. It's not 6 months. It's years, and we are executing on all of those different ideas pretty aggressively in parallel with the OpEx that some people think isn't enough, but we're getting it done.
I mean, I'm not turning down POs,
No, yeah,
exactly. So
yeah, or great talent. We find awesome engineers, we bring them into the company, and people shouldn't believe we are turning people away.
Yeah, I mean, it's a hard problem, but we're solving it, and I think we still feel confident that the 4680 will be the most competitive battery cell in the world.
And it's the whole system around it, right? It's not necessarily a specific form factor. It's the attention to detail on how to break costs out of the manufacturing process, how to remove processing steps.
And all the way down, from the mine to the cell.
Yeah, exactly.
Many steps along the way.
Yeah, and for those who watch the YouTube videos, our on-site cathode facility is coming together. Really excited about that, which is a part of the plan that we discussed on Battery Day.
Yeah, but we're also building a lithium refinery
in Corpus Christi. So we're making, putting our money where our mouths are and all the various efforts that we discussed on Battery Day. On the technical challenges and the ramp question, which is your first question on 4680, look, no ramp is ever easy, even at the end when you're 80% to the end. Like it's still very challenging to get to the end. And that sort of leaning out of yield, the final cycle time, to achieve target. You mentioned logistics. It's not something that we're specifically focused on, I guess, but eventually could be a problem as we're talking about hundreds of gigawatt hours at different sites across the United States. But I would never sit here and say we have no challenges remaining, but we've made a lot of progress reducing technical risk in many areas. Cycle times have dramatically improved. Yield has dramatically improved. And just walking the line here in Texas, like Martin was walking it yesterday, made some comments to me. You really see the acceleration around you. And we've made a ton of simplifications moving from the Fremont factory to Texas, and it's coming to play in speed of ramp here. And of course that's on one line of many here in Texas. So it's not like factory to factory. It's a multiplication of both simplicity and scale. So we're excited about where it's headed.
Yeah, and I think once we are fully integrated, I think we still do see a path to pull a roughly $70 kilowatt hour cell. So $70 per kilowatt hour. So yeah, before any incentive. Before incentive. Yeah. Yep.
Thank you. And the next question comes from Tony Sacconaghi from Bernstein. Tony, go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to follow up on the 4680 cells and where we are seeing them deployed today. So are those in the semis that are being delivered on December 1st? Are we seeing them in Model Ys that are being produced out of Austin? And
thank you.
Do you anticipate 4680 being a gating factor for Cybertruck ramp later this year? And how do you balance the need for 4680 across semi, Cybertruck, and potentially Model Y in 2023? And I have a follow-up, please.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, the semi doesn't use 4680s.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yes. Yeah. We are making Model Ys. Some of the Model Ys coming out of Giga Texas are 4680. And I think, Drew, the car you drive around is 4680.
Yep.
Model Y.
10,000 miles.
10,000 miles. Yeah, it's pretty good.
No problems yet.
Yeah. Structural pack. Yeah.
The semi's not using 4680.
And I mean, our output at 4680 is growing exponentially. So.
Where are those cars going?
But it's worth bearing in mind, like there are entire highly competitive companies that are very smart, that all they do is make battery cells. This is simply one segment of Tesla.
Yeah.
So, so it's not the total walk and talk.
No, there are challenges still ahead that we have not yet surpassed, no doubt.
We don't anticipate this being any limiting factor for Cybertruck or anything else.
I'm even more confused now.
Okay, thank you. And the last question comes from William Stein from Truist. Go ahead and unmute yourself, please.
I'm so lost. I don't understand.
Great, thanks for taking my question. I guess I'll go at one that I asked last time, Elon, which is your expectation for the likelihood of commercial success in each of the three major AI endeavors, FSD, sort of as imagined without a driver, the training computer, and of course Optimus.
We'll achieve full self-driving, full autonomy. My probability of that occurring is 100%. And I think we'll, we're almost there. And then of course we got to prove it to regulators and get the regulatory approvals, which is outside of our control. I mean, anyone who's driving full self-driving, who's has the full self-driving beta in the car, can see the rate of improvement. you just experience for yourself that we are in fact getting there. In fact, we almost are there. So anyway, probably achieving that 100%. The optimism probability of that being a successful product, I think, also extremely high. Given enough time, 100%. Dojo, there's maybe more of a question mark around Dojo of like, can we be competitive with NVIDIA GPUs even as NVIDIA continues to rapidly evolve their GPUs? So as the jury's out on Dojo. Dojo team thinks they can outperform NVIDIA for neural net training. But the jury's out, and we'll probably know, I don't know, next year if that's if that's true or not. But we think we're probably we think it's let's say the architecture of Dojo has is the right architecture to win. It depends on how well we execute within that architecture.
So Dojo may have been a
Thank you very
huge
much.
waste of time.
I think, unfortunately, it's all the time that we have today. So thank you so much for your great questions, and look forward to talking to you in about 3 months from now. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thanks, everyone.
Okay. Call is over. Wow. That was an eventful earnings call, in my opinion. There's a lot of exciting information in this shareholder deck as well as the call itself. I'm kind of tempted to do a video. I don't know if I have time today. I'll see what's going on. But yeah, biggest highlights for me are they want to be at a run rate of 50,000 semis a year by the end of 2024, I think they said. They confirmed the Tesla Semi is not using 4680s, which has me even more lost now. Now I'm like, what? So how many freaking 2170s do you have access to? And if you have that many 2170s, why aren't you putting them in more Model Ys, I guess? Maybe just the factory line can't output that many. But so they're definitely not cell constrained if they can build this many semis. But yeah, I think Logan might be onto something. He says maybe they have now matched the range and they don't tell you what battery form factor you're getting anymore. This makes it incredibly difficult to know which cells your vehicle have. Well, no, except I think in the owner's manual they say if you have a structural battery pack or not. There could be a higher tier semi with longer range and faster charging. They are building the higher tier semi first. There's going to be a long range semi, which is what they're building now, the 500-mile range, and then at some point they said there would be a standard range model Tesla semi with 300 miles of range, because frankly a lot of semi-truck routes are not that far. They don't all drive thousands of miles. Some do. There's no doubt some semi-trucks go thousands of miles, but the vast majority of them have routes that are under 200 miles or so. They said they have a bunch of 2170 being made by themselves and other suppliers. See, I thought Panasonic was building all the 2170s, but I guess they're in partnership with Panasonic at Giga Nevada, so. But yeah, like, now it makes me want to look over the shareholder deck again, where they're talking about U.S. and Texas. They say, here, I'll show you. Go back to this here real quick. The production rate of Model Ys made in Texas continued to increase in each month of the quarter. The total number of 4680 cells produced cells sent to formation increased 3x sequentially. The initial phase of tests. Yeah, like in previous earnings calls, they've said they're building 2170 Model Ys and 4680 Model Ys, and a lot of us made the assumption that they had stopped building 4680 Model Ys because, for one, they did not update the configurator with the standard range all-wheel drive, and for two, people stopped getting the accelerated delivery option. There was a huge decline in number of people that were like, hey, if you want to get your car faster, you can buy a 4680 Model Y. No one's taken delivery of as far as we know, a standard range all-wheel drive Model Y in several months. Those little off-menu options kind of went away. And the fact now that he's saying, like, all the Model Ys we're building at... Is that what he said? Did he say the Model... I don't know if he said all the Model Ys at Texas have 4680 or just some. Oh, that's so confused now. You still cannot figure out where these batteries are going. Yeah, I'm glad the semi's coming out. I'm just really confused about the battery allocation choices they're making. Like, that means they have plenty of 2170 cells to pull from, but they're also saying 4680s are going into Model Ys coming out of Texas. And Texas, he says, is basically at 2,000 a week, but there's still not a way to order a 4680 Model Y. Maybe Logan's right. Maybe they just found a way to, like, you can't tell the difference. The long-range dual-motor Model Y, whether it's 2170 or 4680, is like, you can't tell. They're identical unless you tear it down. But, man, that's weird. That's really bizarre. But, yeah, that's insane. 50,000 semis at $250,000 is $12.5 billion in revenue. I'm not sure if they'll exactly be that expensive. When they unveiled them, they said the long range would be 180 grand. I'm sure it's more than that, but I don't know if it'd go up to 250 grand. I guess if you can get the kilowatt hour price down to 50,000, that's a lot for a semi truck, but it's still probably worth it if you don't have to pay for diesel. Yeah, there's no Cybertruck boat mode discussion, but this is the first earnings call in a long time that we've gotten any kind of Cybertruck update. For the past like 10 not 10. For the last like 5 earnings calls, they've been saying we'll start Cybertruck subsequent to Model Y ramp. This is the first time they've said we've started doing the tooling on the Cybertruck line, which basically means they've started building the manufacturing line for the Cybertruck and testing beta builds. I'm pretty sure they mentioned that 4680 is required for the Cybertruck. I don't think they're going to put 2170s in it, but when is Q4? Now, we're in Q4. Or is that a trick question? I don't know, but I'm just like so lost now. I assume the semi is using 2170s. I don't think they would put 1865s in there. It doesn't seem right. But I guess that means the semi doesn't have a structural pack. But it was fascinating to hear them say that the Tesla Semi will not compromise on the payload capacity. They like doubled down on that. They were like, it's a heavy truck, but it will still have equal payload to diesel semi trucks. Will be great to see both semi and Cybertruck on the road in 2024 all over the U.S. Maybe some in 2023. Yeah, we should be getting some. Tesla semis are basically on the road now. First deliveries to customers will be December 1st, but I'm pretty sure Tesla's driving them around at this point, testing them. 2170 is probably the most likely option. I mean, it's true that they're building them in Nevada, and Nevada mostly builds 2170 cells, so I guess if you had to build a vehicle there, it would make the most amount of sense to use the cells that are already there, because you don't have to move them very far. Predictions for the half-effort vehicle first deliveries? What do you mean half-effort? Do you mean like the first 4680 Model Y deliveries where they like just delivered to employees and then they just drive them over the stage? I think there's a good chance of that they could start delivering Cybertrucks to employees and not like actual customers, and maybe just restrict it to employees for several months. That would not surprise me. Would have bet on 4680 before this call, but nice to know the same cells in my car are likely used in a revolutionary transport for goods. Plot twist! Tesla Semi has lithium iron phosphate. No, it doesn't. But that is cool. Yeah, 2170s are underrated, I think, is the moral of the story. There's as time has gone on, there's been more and more disappointing stats about 4680. It just continues to be not that great or not that different or not much cheaper. It's like at Battery Day, I was convinced 4680s were going to make these super cheap high-range vehicles, and now it's like, maybe the Texas Model Ys are 4680. Maybe they're not. I don't know. Elon said they were working on a vehicle that would require half the effort. Basically, they can make 2 of them for every... Oh, that's right. He did talk about that. The third tier. I don't know where that's coming from. People were acting like S and X is one tier, and then the 3Y is another tier. But I mean, there's expensive vehicles that are meant for expensive markets, and then there's cheap vehicles that are meant for cheap markets. I don't really think there's a giant difference between those tiers It's just some were designed, and then those change. You know, the Model S built in 2012 is very, very, very different from the Tesla Model S built today. I mean, especially just interior, exterior design, a lot has changed, but also under the hood, wiring, electronics, cell chemistry, you know, lots of things have changed. Tour says my brain can't handle all this confusion. I love it. I feel like I'm learning a lot today, and thank God. We almost went the whole earnings call with no one asking what batteries the Tesla Semi had in them. I am so grateful that someone actually asked that. He went on a little too long, I think. A lot of these people are like, so what kind of batteries are they going to use in the Semi? And also, which batteries are the 4680s going into in Giga Texas? And also, what are your plans for the 4680, the Cybertruck? You know, it's like, just pick a really good one question. Just pick really good question that's good for one, and stick with that question so that they can answer it, because you could tell as soon as Elon heard 5 follow-up questions, he was like, oh gosh. It's like they won't answer your good question. You can't just ask like 5 good questions all at once. Is this the Model 2 a cheaper vehicle for customers? I wouldn't count on it, Jacob. I mean, Elon on the record has said there is no Model 2. He's literally said that. Like, that's not what it would be called anyway. He did say something that there would be future vehicles that would be smaller than the Model 3 and Y, but I'm still convinced he's just talking about robotaxi. I'm pretty sure that's all he means. Personally, I have given up on the concept that Tesla will ever sell a $25,000 car to a person. If you can't afford a Model 3, Tesla's just going to say that you should just ride in robotaxis. I don't like that. I wish Tesla would make a $25,000 car, because it would probably be great. But I don't think just making a smaller version of the Model 3, like a compact Tesla, I don't think that would be drastically cheaper. It's just slightly less materials, slightly less steel, slightly less weight, slightly different chassis design. All of that doesn't necessarily shave off a bunch off the cost. The biggest thing that shaves off the cost is the batteries being made for cheap, and the best way to do that is building lithium iron phosphate locally, which they said on the earnings call they're going to do that. They're looking into ways to build a terawatt hours worth of production domestically, so without using any imported materials. And they said that the majority of that will probably be lithium iron phosphate. So they're not doing that now, but they've already said in the past that like nearly half of the vehicles they've delivered are using LFP. So all of that is coming from China at this point. The batteries will get way, way cheaper once you don't have to ship them all the way from China, and you can just build them in the U.S. You've inspired me to go Model 3. Such a dope car. Oh, thanks, man. I hope you like it. It's not a perfect car. I hope you guys know that. Like, there's little things I don't like about it, but still, it's a very good car, and I love it. So I'm happy if you're happy. Ask one good question. Yes, exactly. I think that the next big model after Cybertruck and Semi and Roadster and everything we know about is going to be the Robotaxi, and I think that the software is going to delay that more and more and more, because it's not going to be quite ready yet, or it's not reliable enough. And I think the March of Nines will go on for a long, long time. Tony from Bernstein is the best boy for asking 4680 question. We got Elon to admit the Tesla Semi doesn't use 4680s, which was the biggest wow, like what the heck moment, like what's going on moment. It totally threw out all of my theories. My whole theory was that they can't build 4680 at volume, so they decided to put it in a low volume product like the Semi, because the Semi, even if you were only building like 50 a month, it wouldn't need that many cells to be on the road. But it's not using 4680s. So, and I like that Tesla's doubled down on the fact that it will have equal payload. It will not compromise on the payload capacity. That means they will have a stockpile of 4680s ready to help Cybertruck ramp as quickly as possible. That could be, but again, they said on this call that the Model Y is coming out of Texas. I think he said some. I think that's what you guys heard as well. They said, yeah, that's what Brandon Kwong is asking. What models are using 4680? That's what we're all trying to figure out. We can't get a clear answer. Other than at this call, they said, even though we haven't seen anyone take delivery of a standard range all-wheel drive Model Y in the last few months, And people that went to the annual shareholder meeting said they didn't see any 4680 Model Ys in production. They just saw 2170 Model Ys being built. On the call today, they said some of the Model Ys coming out of Giga Texas are 4680, but as far as we know, Texas is only building long range. So the best way I can make use of that is like there's some Model Ys coming out of Texas with 4680, some with 2170, and it's nearly impossible to tell the difference. That's the only way I can interpret what they told us. I don't know. Hugo says, I believe they're saving the 4680 for the Cybertruck, and they get going, they will install the 4680s to the Semi. I don't think so, to be honest. I mean, that's not a bad theory, Hugo. It's just the fact that now they've confirmed, essentially, I'm pretty sure it's 2170. They've essentially confirmed that the Tesla Semi is using 2170 cells. We know the 2170 cells are built at Giga Nevada. Now they've confirmed today Tesla Semi is being built at Giga Nevada. Rumors were true. And they want to scale up production, I assume, just at Giga Nevada to 50,000 a year. Maybe they want to build semis in Texas, but they didn't really mention that. There's no plans for that I can see. I think it just makes the most amount of sense to use the cells that are built at the same factory. You're building 2170 cells there, you're building the Semi there, use those cells. Unless they start building Semi in Texas, I don't think there's a reason to switch the Semi over to 4680. Maybe that's the plan, but I personally think Texas is already kind of maxed out square footage wise, that the Model Y manufacturing is taking up like 70% of the floor space, and then 30% is going to be reserved for Cybertruck. I don't know where you would build the Semi. Elon never hinted / mentioned 4680 will come to Semi. I could have swore there was an earnings call where they said the Semi would need 4680. I thought a long time ago. Let me see if I can find that. Tesla Semi. I thought there was a point. Yeah. This was January of 2021. I'll put the article in the chat. He confirmed today that the current Tesla Semi being built does not use 4680, but in the past he did say that they need the 4680 cells for the Semi. Now I guess they don't. So I'm wondering what's changed. But I also don't think that they're just stockpiling 4680s, because they didn't say that. They didn't say they're not using any. They just said that some of the Model Ys at Texas are 4680. Yeah, he never mentioned in this earnings call. Correct. In this earnings call, they never said 4680s coming to Semi. But that's weird that their plans change like this. At Battery Day, they mentioned that 4680 is just a form factor, and all of their chemistry advancements could be applied to other form factors like 2170, so Semi could use new chemistry. It's probably... I'm guessing it's the same chemistry. They just found a way to lay out the cells in a cost-effective way. My guess is right now for vehicle batteries, 2170s are still the most energy dense. Like watt-hours per kilogram. That's what he said. Anytime... I like that story he told. It made me laugh. He was like, anytime I ask someone tells me that electric semi-trucks don't work, he asks, what are your assumptions about watt-hours per kilogram? And then they give him a blank stare and say hydrogen. Tesla did change the powertrain of the Semi from 4 to 3 motors, probably more efficient. Yeah, I agree. They likely found some efficiencies there. I don't think one motor saves on that much weight, but I do think that the energy density of 2170 cells has likely gone up since last year or the year before. Every year they try to increase the density a little bit. But yeah, the fact that they went with 3 motors instead of 4 probably helps. Not necessarily just the motor, but the excess wiring and the cooling needed and stuff. So, But yeah, I'm still very confused because they said that they've now started producing 3 times as many 4680 cells this quarter as they did last quarter. So, those got to be going somewhere. I guess 3 times 0 is still 0. Not weight, but space. Motors do take up space. Yeah, but the Semi's got a lot of space to work with. It only has to sit one person, and he's way off the ground. What really you have to fight with on the semi tractors is weight, because that eats into your payload capacity. Because in the U.S. you have a limit of 82,000 pounds gross weight. What type of battery cells used in the S and X? They're always been the same. Always been 1865. Model S and X from day one have always used 1865 cells. That hasn't changed. And I've been wrong on them in the past, to be frank. The 1865 cells are not as energy dense, but they're better at outputting power, which is why they make more sense on the S and X as power hungry vehicles like the Plaid. They want to go fast. For performance vehicles, having, I don't know if it necessarily has to do with the dimension, but the narrower cell allows for more contact points in the pack, which means it can output power faster than a 2170 cell can. Not to say you can't do high performance with 2170, it's just 1865 makes more sense for it. Are the batteries in the semi vertical, or are they flat underneath like on the cars? Because that would mean they don't have to do a structural pack or something else that could help save money. Yeah, we don't know that. I would assume they're vertical. I've never seen Tesla do flat batteries. And I've also not heard Tesla ever say they could do 2170 structural. They've pretty much always confirmed that 4680 is necessary for structural. Yeah, so, That's weird, though. I feel like there's issues with the EPA if you're building long-range Model Y with two different chemistries and one is structural and one isn't. I feel like that wouldn't you notice some weight change or some manufacturing change, or wouldn't you open your owner's manual and discover some are structural pack and some aren't? Man, now I want to ask a bunch of people that took delivery of a Giga Texas Model Y, like, does your owner's manual say you have a non-structural pack or a structural pack? Man, Tesla's very good at avoiding the Osborne effect. If they found a way to get the 4680 batteries to exactly match the range and performance and charging speed of the long range with the 2170 cells, could that really be it? I don't know. That's a tough one. I guess they could bake in a little bit more range than they need and then software lock it to 330. But man, my head had just exploded with this earnings call. All of these crazy reveals, I have no idea. We should have believed the sources. There were people contacting me before telling me that the Tesla Semi was using 2170, and I didn't believe it. Maybe it's a legal gray area and they don't have to list it online as long as it's clear on the window sticker, which many people don't look at on a Tesla. I don't think the window sticker says what cells it's using, though. Did they mention anything about removing stocks 3/Y? Thanks for answering all the questions. Oh, of course, Brandon. But no, they didn't answer that, unfortunately. Although it was asked. Someone said, can you tell us what your plans are for future product interior development or upgrades? And Elon was just like, no. It was hilarious. He was just like, no. So at this point, I don't think the Model 3 or Y are going to get a big interior refresh. I think they're just moving so fast. All of Tesla's focused is just how quickly can we build these things. I don't think, unless they can think of a way to reduce cost, I don't think they're going to do it. And like, yeah, you could incorporate capacitive buttons and, grant the, grant the steering wheel here on the Semi with the capacitive buttons, but I have a feeling that change in steering wheel design would probably cost more because they would have to scale up a new type of steering wheel, and that would cause a lot of retrofitting. So you might not have to pay for gear stocks, but now you got to pay for new things, more buttons and more wiring that wasn't there before, because the buttons light up and stuff. So my guess is it doesn't actually save them anything, but things like removing the ultrasonic sensors, that saves a lot of money. So they'll do that. They'll get rid of sonar real quick, because who needs sonar? Who needs park assist, right? That's not important. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't think there's going to be many design changes in the near term. If people stop buying the cars, then they'll be forced to make some changes, but it doesn't make sense for them to go out of their way to make many changes. Exactly. Logan has my mindset on this. Is like, I'm always in my videos trying to convince people of Tesla's mission statement, which seems pretty clear, but a lot of people seem to forget it, is like, if you have a demand backlog, you're not going to do anything to make your product more desirable. And Tesla seemed to double down even today with everyone saying, like, is Tesla China okay? Are people not ordering cars in China? They're like, no, it's fine. I mean, China's going through a recession right now, but we still see no reason why we can't sell every car we make. I believe them. If they really have a hard time selling cars, they'd be lowering prices. Tesla does not stockpile vehicles. They never have. Ever since 10 years ago in the Model S days when they started building those up, it's like they will sell cars at a loss before they store them. They won't just sit on a bunch of inventory. No, there's no mention of powered frunk for Model 3. Again, that would increase costs and increase complexity of manufacturing. I don't think that would speed things up. That would just be a way to increase desirability, which I don't think they need right now. I don't personally care what batteries the Semi uses as long as the truck works. That's all I care about. It's going to be an incredible product. Yeah, no, I'm all excited for it too. Personally, every quarter that's gone by, I've gotten less interested in 4680 cells. And I frankly just think 2170 cells are pretty dang good. I think they likely chose 2170 cells because they had the best watt hours per kilogram, which is what matters with the Semi truck. How many cameras are on the Semi? Have they said? I think someone went on the prototype, because Tesla's driven around the prototype before, and they said they counted like 20 cameras on the Semi. It has lots of extra cameras, I think. It has some up high, and it has some, because you need much better visibility with a vehicle like that. But I don't think the production model will have like 20 cameras. The prototype probably had extra just for safety reasons, but I think it'll have more than a regular car. It'll probably have more than 8 cameras. I bet it'll be like maybe 12 or 15. Because I'm pretty sure they want to put a camera on the trailer as well. I don't know if you count that as being on the Semi, but yeah, you're right. If people stop buying the cars, then they'll make some changes. But if they're not making changes, it's probably because people aren't stopping. Everyone's still ordering the things. Tesla won't just sit on inventory. That's not the kind of company they are. So if they really saw a huge decline in orders, I think they would be lowering prices. I think, and that's okay. Just as a reminder for everyone, it's not a bad thing for Tesla to lower prices. If demand goes down, then Tesla has to try harder to make more desirable products, which is a win for us. Maybe it's not a big win for shareholders, but there's a lot more of us than there are shareholders, right? Wait, so Tesla's mission statement isn't to do whatever I want whenever I want? Wow. Yeah. No, that's the hard thing, is like, I know Tesla Semi deliveries are going to begin in December, but I don't know if Pepsi or whoever takes delivery of them is going to tell us how it works, or if it's better or not. Obviously, Roadster will be a while. What's your guess for start of production? Man, it's really a shot in the dark, because the Roadster is, frankly, out of all the things they've announced, the least important. It's really just a show-off vehicle. Like the Robotaxi, in Tesla's mind, that replaces 5 gas cars, so that the Robotaxi is more important than the Roadster. Cybertruck has huge amount of pent-up demand, a lot of people hyping it up, wanting it, and it's going to sell probably at very high volume. Pickup trucks sell very high in the US, so Cybertruck's more important, Semi's more important, Roadster's more important, and in Tesla's mind, the bot is more important because it doesn't require as many materials, and it will replace a bunch of dangerous or boring repetitive jobs, so it's a super profitable business. Almost anything you can think of going on at Tesla is more important than the Roadster, so my guess is basically a roll of the dice. I have no real logic behind it other than probably not soon. I don't think there's any reason to expedite the the Roadster production, but I guess I would say when everything that they've currently announced has been ramped is my safe bet. Like, okay, when the Semi is ramped, Cybertruck is ramped, Model Ys have ramped, 2025 maybe. I think, you know, the further out you guess, the safer. But I don't have a, I don't know. It's just that the whole point of the Roadster has kind of been achieved with the Plaid Model S. If you go back and watch the Roadster unveil, they were like, the point of this is to show that electric cars can be better than gas cars, and Tesla's kind of already proved that. They don't really need the Roadster to prove that point. It's just kind of a fun party trick now. Party tricks are fun, but yeah, it's probably going to be built in Fremont. What's the most impressive thing you got from this call, asks Adam. I think for me it's that the Semi uses 2170 cells. We're pretty sure. That surprises me that they can make it work. And I was also very impressed to hear them say we are not compromising on the payload capacity. Like the Tesla Semi will have equal payload to diesel semi trucks, because that is by far the biggest criticism electric semi trucks get. Anytime someone says, "Oh, Tesla Semi won't work. It's so heavy that means you can't haul anything and the range is too low." And it's like, the fact that they're doubling down on this in the vehicles in production now, it says that in the shareholder deck. They're building them as we speak at Nevada. I'm actually not far from Giga Nevada, so I'm like tempted to drive out there to look at them. I'm also impressed. I was not expecting the Cybertruck status to change today on the shareholder deck. I'm going to look at that again just because it's so much fun. Earnings call here. Get rid of the image. Look at it. Cybertruck's in the tooling stage. Yes, yes, yes. And they said on the earnings call that they are prepping the line right now. They're installing the equipment for the Cybertruck assembly line. And we've heard from many people that the Giga Press for the Cybertruck underbody has been shipped. It has arrived in Texas, and it's going to arrive at Giga Texas soon. Crumb says, Megachargers where? Well, there's already one at Giga Nevada that they've installed. I have pictures of it, actually, if you want to see. Where is it? Down here somewhere. Community people. Is it up here? Oh, yeah, Megacharger. We got someone who lives nearby or was driving by the Megacharger reached out to me, and they took some pictures of it. So you can see here, it's I hope you can see what I see. Is it there? Yeah, it's not a traditional Tesla connector. It's a different connector that's also not the MCS standard, which is a little bit concerning. But these are not, these are like 6 feet tall. I think there's one of these pictures has a guy, yeah, the guy standing next to him. See, these things are not the urban superchargers. That's not what those are. These are very tall. They're honestly very close to the design of the V4 superchargers that we've seen in filings. Hey, it's your boy. How goes it? Cybertruck tooling. That's the biggest news for me. But yeah, these have special connectors that are designed different. Yeah, there it is. It's not the Tesla connector. So he didn't ask for credit. He didn't ask me to credit him or anything, but these are the pictures he sent me. Very nice guy. But they haven't detailed much about these Megachargers. Didn't know I was in the community B-roll folder still. Of course. I don't delete B-roll. I keep everything. Everybody's there. We got so many B-rolls to choose from. But yeah, actually Smart Summon is what matters the most. I don't know if it matters the most, but I'd be excited to try it. And they've also installed a Megacharger. The Megacharger I showed you. Oh, there's another one. Hold on. The Megacharger I just showed you was at the Frito-Lay facility, so that's in Modesto, California. I actually have family out there. And I think in the Tesla Semi media images, yeah, there's another one here. This is at Giga Nevada. So right as they build the semi trucks, they can Megacharge them right outside. So there's 2 known Megachargers. They'll probably install more as time goes on. Have a good evening, Brandon. Thanks for tuning in. Let's see. To get the semi specs without 4680 is insane. That is insane. I feel like that says a lot about the 2170 cells and how good they are. What point does Tesla start seeing lawsuits for not delivering a car they promised and people put $100 down on after 5+ years? Probably never, because if you read the Cybertruck pre-order agreement, they completely legally cover themselves. You don't, like, Tesla could cancel the Cybertruck and you wouldn't have grounds for a lawsuit, because if you read through the pre-order agreement, it's like these are all subject to change, the dates don't really mean anything, and you're not locking in anything, and everything is subject to change. It's really just, it's not even a place in line, because Tesla doesn't deliver products in order of who ordered first. All the Cybertruck reservation means is you are interested in one day buying a Cybertruck. That's all it does. It doesn't lock in anything. Tesla has to give you nothing for that. Other than if you ask for your money back, they have to send back $100. That's pretty much the only thing they've... But if at any point Tesla wanted to, they could just say, Cybertruck's canceled and refund everybody. And they'd be totally fine. I'm very excited for semi-deliveries. Me too. This is by far, in my opinion, the coolest electric vehicle of the year. And I did not think it would launch this year. I thought they said it was going to be pushed to next year. And now that it's not, I'm like, woo! This is awesome. I love the Tesla Semi so much. And it's cool to get confirmation that it does not use 4680 cells. I want to see Optimus driving many vehicle types with FSD like smarts, old ICE vehicles, you name it. Ugh. Just seeing how slow and laggy the bot was, I just don't trust it driving a car. But yeah, it was a good call. I like this earnings call. I enjoyed the information. A lot of the questions were good. There were still some stupid questions, but for the most part, I enjoyed it, and I'm glad I listened to it live. It was exciting, and I'm pumped for the Semi. Hopefully they install some more mega chargers as time goes on. And yeah, I'm hyped for the Cybertruck too. It's cool to see the development status change. You know what I'm curious about? That I want to look up. So right now, we finally got an update on the vehicle capacity chart where they said the Cybertruck's in the tooling stage. But when was Model Y for Texas listed as under construction? That's what I want to know. How long did it take to go from... How far back do they go? So Q1 of 2021, if I go to the shareholder. This is an old one. Model Y was listed as under construction in Texas in Q1. And then it went to production in Q4, I think? Or am I off on that? By Q4. I'm trying to remember when they started officially. Oh, it was equipment test by Q4. Okay. Yeah, that's Model Y. I forgot that they had equipment test. What about Q1, I think, right? Yeah. Early ramp, but it was in the production stage. So it took about a year for Model Y to go from under construction to production, Q1 to Q1. So the fact that Cybertruck is in tooling of Q4 means my current timeline, my guess, again, we've all been wrong. Everybody's been off in their timelines for Cybertruck. I think they will be testing equipment by the middle of 2023 and first deliveries will be end of 2023. Q4. That's my current projection. The fact that there's actually motion going on with the Cybertruck is exciting, and that's a good sign. It means that there is motion going on. It's not shelved. It's not a project that's like, oh, we'll get to that someday. It's like, no, we're literally installing the equipment at the factory. We have the location. We have the design picked out. And yeah, so that's... And it'll probably be employee deliveries first. I feel somewhat comfortable with that guess. Is like employees will take delivery of the Cybertruck next year and customers will take delivery in 2024. I don't think you can never take Elon's timeline as accurate. So when he says they're going to start building them in mid 2023, they'll probably start building test vehicles that they send to the EPA and they range test them, and then we get some fuel economy data on it, and then they have a delivery event for employees, kind of like the Model 3, right? The Model 3 had a delivery event at the end of 2017, and then they had more deliveries to follow. No big unforeseen problems. Q4 2023 first deliveries. I think that's a reasonable timeline considering they've begun installing the tooling equipment. I would agree basic parking sensors are really important, and shocked they are no longer in a 53,000 pound car. Yeah, the currency pound, not the weight. I agree with you, Simeon, but I'm not against the concept of Tesla Vision replacing ultrasonic sensors. I just agree with like what most people have said, that software, it'd be nice if it was ready before you get rid of the sensors. I would rather them figure out the software first, then remove the sensors rather than... Because it's not... Like, when they removed radar, you could still have autopilot. There were some restrictions, but you still had it. Whereas with the ultrasonic sensors, they're getting rid of them, and they just straight up don't have summon, park assist, or auto park. They just straight up drop the features. It's not like the features are limited. They're just straight up gone. So, yeah, that's why I'm like, okay, if you can replace the ultrasonic sensors with Tesla Vision, that's fine, but just do it right away. Don't, like, say eventually we'll do that and then have just missing features on a bunch of the cars for months. So, yeah, I'm not happy about that, but I understand why Tesla did it, because they know they can get away with it. They know they have the demand backlog, so people are still going to take delivery. Tesla removed the sensors first so that they could gather data quickly. Well, those vehicles aren't gathering data, though. They're not on the beta. The FSD beta is what's using the occupancy network. They're not gathering anything from the new vehicles, from what I can tell. If you're not using Park Assist, then there's no data being collected. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I don't think they are. I think all of the Park Assist testing is being done with the occupancy network, but that's only with vehicles on the beta. I was surprised to hear Semi isn't using 4680. Yes, that was a big surprise for me. Optimus driving Semi with trailer into Pepsi loading dock with Fast and the Furious soundtrack. Then we could have Optimus Prime, right? Yeah, he's a semi-truck. Paint Optimus blue and silver and have it blast Pepsi Man. Pepsi Man! That would be beautiful. I would watch that. Will Tesla Semi have the light show mode? Where is the Tesla toy box features of the Semi? When Tesla Vision became ready, it just started ignoring my radar sensor. They didn't give me a car without radar and say, we'll have the feature ready soon. Yeah, exactly. You could get autopilot to work without radar. It didn't do as well. It had a lower max limit. So I'd be like, okay, Park Assist is a little bit less reliable. Maybe it doesn't see as clearly, but it'll get better over time. Instead, they're just like, no, it's not there. Imagine if they were delivering the vehicles without radar and just said, they don't have autopilot, we'll add it back someday. That would be like, ugh. Elusive and slow to trickle down to more common folks. Did you see the BBC documentary about Elon Musk with the early investor? No, I heard about it, though. I want to watch it. Cybertruck production still doesn't exist, so those statements are still valid. Technically, any vehicle is vaporware until it's been delivered, if you look at the textbook definition of vaporware. So, by that logic, the Silverado EV is also vaporware. And the... what is it? All the Rolls-Royce and the Cadillac Celeste, whatever you call it, all of that's vapor. Anything that's not been delivered to a customer is vaporware. Doesn't matter if it's from a startup or a legacy automaker. If you want to live life like that, you can, but I just think that it's kind of a black and white view of things, when in reality it's like, okay, there's some companies like Nikola that are like, hey, the Badger has 600 miles of range, and it's just renderings and there's no prototype even. And then you have vehicles like the Aptera, where they're actively working on the manufacturing line, and they're showing the manufacturing line, and Tesla installing equipment to mass produce a vehicle in a factory and building the Gigapress, buying the Gigapress from a company that's showing how the Gigapress will work. And this Gigapress is designed to build a very specific vehicle, but also, yes, technically the Cybertruck hasn't been delivered yet, so I guess vaporware. But I'm sure Idra built a 9,000-ton Gigapress for no reason. I don't know why they built that thing, but yeah, it's all vapor. I tend to not look at things as so black and white. That's why I don't just say vaporware on things. Because clearly some vehicles are further ahead in development than others. And there's a lot of different stages. They said the same thing of the Model 3 and Y. Every time Tesla announces a new product, they call it vaporware. Well, technically it is, but that's why I just tend to not use the term vaporware, is because it's kind of a misleading statement, and it's very hard to prove that something isn't vaporware, because it's very hard to bring an electric vehicle to market. It can take years after unveiling. Like Rivian was vaporware for 2 years, or 3 years if you consider, like, they unveiled it, I think in 2018 they unveiled the R1T and the R1S, and deliveries just started, like, of the R1S, they just started like this year. So the R1S was vaporware for 4 years. I don't like that terminology, so that's why I'm just like, yeah, some vehicles are closer to reality than others. I think the Roadster will come after Cybertruck. Oh yeah, no question. What's the equivalent Cybertruck at Apple VR? Yeah, I guess so. Kind of augmented reality. AirPower was straight up canceled. I don't think the Cybertruck's gonna be canceled. Once truly smart summon releases as soon as this week, Teslas without ultrasonic sectors will get the features back soon after. Do we know that, Jacob, for sure? I don't know how sure we are of that. It would be nice. I don't like that term, as soon as. That means it could happen anytime. It's like anytime could be tomorrow or it could be 3 months from now. So I'm not going to get my hopes up, especially with Tesla. They usually take longer than we think. Tesla Semi was supposed to start production in 2019, and here we are in 2022. Now it started. They were late, but yes, Tesla's known for missing timelines, so I don't trust Elon's timelines on truly smart summon, but I would love to try it once it's out and everybody can use it, but I just hate how hard it is to get in the beta. It's annoyingly complicated. Even when you do everything right, it's like, oh, your car is on too new a version. It's weird. Yeah, I would say Roadster's probably going to be after everything is ramped. After Semi is ramped, after Cybertruck's ramped, which is going to be a while. I don't think the Cybertruck's going to be fully ramped for several years. It's probably going to take the bulk of 2024, maybe even part of 2025 until the Cybertruck's at max volume. And they're only going to start building cheaper Cybertrucks when people stop ordering the high-end versions. So once they run out of people to buy the high-end versions, they may start lowering prices a bit or building the dual-motor Cybertruck. Or if the bigger problem is range, maybe they'll make a longer-range Cybertruck and more people will buy that. So anyway, I've been live for a while. I could do this all day if I'm not careful, so I'm going to check in on my wife. Hope she's doing okay. And if I have time, I might do a video at some point, maybe tomorrow, but either way, very good earnings call. The last few earnings calls were kind of boring, but I was very excited for this one, and it lived up to the hype. Met my expectations and exceeded them in several ways. So I'm glad you guys could join me. Thank you all for tuning in, and this was the first earnings call we did from inside the Model 3. I thought that was fun, and the HVAC is working very well. It feels nice and cool inside. We did the Q3 earnings call in a vehicle that was delivered in Q3. How cool is that? Isn't that nice? Tesla's going to buy Apple now instead. Yeah, right. No, I don't think that'll happen. But thank you all for tuning in. Hope you have an excellent rest of your night. Take care. Bye-bye.